Huang Yueli was bored and was preparing to visit Su Qingwei and the others while Li Moying wasn't around. Whoever knew? She had just reached the entrance when she met with an unexpected guest. Miss Bai, we haven't met for a few months, and it seems that you have grown much prettier than before. It's no wonder that you're the lady whom eldest senior brother have taken a fancy upon. An introverted and amiable voice was heard from behind her back. Huang Yueli turned back and saw Li Lingchuan, who was dressed in a long green robe, standing not too far behind from her. Although a smile hung on his face, but his expression seemed extremely cold. So it's you. We aren't that familiar, right? Will you please move aside? Huang Yueli said in an impolite tone. She still recalled the time when they were still in the Dark Moon Forest, and Li Lingchuan almost got Li Moying killed. This person was her enemy. She naturally didn't show him any face at all. Li Lingchuan seemed as though he didn't see her expression, filled with deep hatred as he walked directly in front of her. What's the matter? Eldest senior brother actually didn't follow you around to protect you? He actually let you roam about in Celestial Light Sect? Huang Yueli's arms were crossed. What does it have to do with you? I'm only worried that eldest senior brother is not able to protect you properly. After all, I heard that my third junior sister and youngest junior sister all hate you to the core. TSK, you have a lot of guts, seducing my eldest senior brother under these two ladies. You actually still humiliate them so much. It seems that you have a lot of schemes. Li Lingchuan smiled as he talked, but every single sentence was filled with ridicule. Huang Yueli coldly replied, You're here just to tell me all these? Trying to stand out for the two Miss Murongs? Allow me to remind you that Celestial Light Sect is not your turf, but my fiancé's turf. If you were to do anything to me here, I wonder who will be the one who will get into trouble. Li Lingchuan was a 6th-stage realm practitioner, and moreover, he was experiences in actual battle. So in terms of battle power, he was way above Murong Fei. A few months ago, when they met in the Dark Moon Forest, Huang Yueli was totally not his match. But now things weren't the same anymore. Huang Yueli admitted that even if she wasn't able to defeat him, but at least she had the ability to escape. Moreover, Li Moying would be back any time, so she didn't know how was it like to be anxious. Li Lingchuan walked near to her as he started to unleash his profound energy with the intention to give her some pressure. Unfortunately, Huang Yueli totally had no reaction, and this made him feel defeated. This is so interesting. You really think that Li Moying can protect you forever? Huang Yueli raised her chin and replied without any hesitation, Of course. But even without his protection, I can protect myself. This was the aim which she had been working hard towards. She didn't want it to be Li Moying's burden. She wanted to be like in her past life, a buddy who could accompany him alongside during a battle and entrust their backs to each other. She wasn't those kind of weak young lady. Li Lingchuan couldn't help but laughed out loudly. Good, you sound so magnanimous. No wonder you're eldest senior brother's woman. I hope 10 days later, you can still say the same thing. Huang Yueli frowned. What do you mean? Li Lingchuan sneered. You know, what was the reason why Master called for eldest senior brother so early in the morning, and moreover so anxious? Huang Yueli recalled Li Moying's anxious look as she was slightly puzzled. Why? Wasn't it because Green Cloud Sect's people are here today? Then, haven't he told you the reason for why Green Cloud Sect is here for? You can also listen on. Huang Yueli frowned as she didn't say a word, but only glancing coldly at Li Lingchuan. Not knowing why, she sensed that this fellow definitely was up to some schemes. Li Lingchuan said, To tell you the truth, Green Cloud Sect's motive in coming here is because they have discovered an ancient mystic region at a location where South Sky region and West Sky region meets. Ancient mystic region. Is this true? Huang Yueli couldn't help but be astonished when he said that. In ancient times, when a profound qi was concentrated in soaring heaven's continent, there were plentiful of strong experts. So in each ancient mystic region, there was a large number of opportunities and treasures which were left down from the ancient times. There were many who entered the mystic region and took a huge step forward to become a top-rated expert. Like Huang Yueli, who discovered the sacred phoenix race's inheritance tower, was one example. But the area of the Inheritance Tower was very small, and it was only one part of the historical remains, so there wasn't any large space to explore within that mystic region. There were plenty of opportunities which were hidden within the mystic region. But in Soaring Heaven's continent, there weren't many ancient mystic regions to be discovered. There were a total of 10, and 7 of it were under the control of the hidden sects in Sky Emperor City. So if Green Cloud Sect were to discover a new ancient mystic region, then that would be an incredible discovery, which was enough to change the entire Soaring Heaven's continent stance. Li Lingchuan observed the expression on her face as he said slowly, "Do I have a need to lie to you? When eldest senior brother is back, just ask him and you will know." Huang Yuli didn't really believe him. Since Green Cloud Sect has discovered an ancient mystic region, instead of keeping it for themselves, they actually came and told Celestial Light Sect? This is simply not logical, right? Li Lingchuan replied, "Why? Is this very strange? Although Green Cloud Sect discovered a mystic region, but they don't have the ability to activate this mystic region. It was rumored that this mystic region requires at least 29 stage realm practitioners to operate together so that it could successfully be activated. Green Cloud Sect don't have that many 9th stage realm practitioners. So that's the case. In this way, are they here to seek cooperation with Celestial Light Sect?" Huang Yuli said while in deep thoughts. Li Lingchuan replied, "That's right. Although there are other sects within West Sky region, but they are after all from the same continent. Green Cloud sects don't want to let their competitors gain any advantage, thus they chose South Sky region's Celestial Light Sect, which is very far away." Huang Yuli nodded and gave a joyous expression. "How should I say it? Will Celestial Light Sect be sending anyone into the mystic region? What qualifications do they need to be able to enter it?" Li Lingchuan gave her an astonished look as he said in surprise, "From your tone, you don't seem to understand what's going to happen. I'm telling you, in this kind of ancient mystic region, there will definitely be a restriction on the number of people who can enter. But eldest senior brother will definitely be one who can enter. As for you, you can only wait outside. Think about it. How many people are jealous of the fact that you've snatched away their male god? When eldest senior brother is gone, how many people will exact their revenge on you?" Huang Yuli went into a blank. Li Lingchuan thought that she was afraid and revealed a complacent smile. "Now you know what it's like to be anxious? Frightened? By the time eldest senior brother enters the ancient mystic region, it will be too late for him to come out to save you. Aren't you just waiting for people to slaughter you?" Huang Yuli blinked and blinked again, then her expression changed as she intentionally gave an extremely terrified look and cried out meekly. Then what should I do? Moing will really not care about me?" Li Lingchuan saw her expression and couldn't help but laughed out loudly in his heart. He coaxed her by saying, "That would depend on whether he values you deeply or not. If he does, perhaps he would give up the chance to enter the mystic region because of you. You can also listen on." Huang Yuli was suddenly enlightened as she finally understood what Li Lingchuan was up to. So this fellow was afraid of Li Moing going through a breakthrough in the ancient mystic region, so he intentionally came to scare her, hoping that she would stop Li Moing from entering the mystic region. In Li Lingchuan's eyes, her cultivation probably wasn't worth noticing, and she definitely required Li Moing to protect her. So he assumed that she couldn't bear for Li Moing to leave her. Alas, he had really been thinking too much. Huang Yuli was having this thinking, but her face revealed a meaning expression. Then, what should I do? He wouldn't go to the mystic region, right? Li Lingchuan smiled. It's not easy nor too difficult. But if he really values you, he will definitely stay behind for you. You just need to beg him to do so. Of course, if he's not willing to give up for you, that would mean you should understand it clearly yourself. Understand your head. Did he really thought that she was an ignorant woman who wasn't aware of anything? In order to keep her fiancé beside her, she would delay his future. Just how many stupid people would do such a thing? Huang Yuli really wanted to roll her eyes toward the sky, but she endured it. She cried out meekly. Then, when he comes home, I'll persuade him. Li Lingchuan thought his scheme had worked when he saw her look and added more oil to the fire. Then we'll have to see your ability. Now those people who are jealous of you are already discussing how to deal with you. Hee hee, you'd better watch out for yourself. Saying that, he turned around and left. Huang Yueli looked at his departing figure and lightly frowned. From Li Lingchuan's meaning, it was a difficult chance to enter the mystic region. Otherwise, he wouldn't have specially came over to threaten her, just to stop Li Moying with the largest possibility to go in. Perhaps Li Lingchuan and the others had already obtained first-hand news on the situation inside the mystic region. Looked like she had to discuss this matter with her fiancé. It was nighttime, and Li Moying dragged his chilly body back to the room, as his expression was obviously tired with his lips slightly pursed. A tinge of impatience was also seen on that good-looking face. But after seeing Huang Yueli welcoming him with a light smile, he instantly relaxed and even gave a smile back. Lear, I heard that you went out shopping today. What good stuff have you bought? Huang Yueli replied, I'm not telling you what I bought. That's a secret. But I met a person whom you totally would not think of. Make a guess, who is it? Li Moying's brows rose as he looked at Huang Yueli. His leer had a sly expression as her full moon eyes were looking at him, waiting for his reply. Li Moying intentionally paused for a moment, and this seems very difficult to guess. He paused for a moment and said, but I guess it should be my second junior brother Li Lingchuan. Huang Yueli instantly became disappointed. Ew, how did you know? You even guessed this correctly. This is because our hearts are linked together. Li Moying laughed. Did you send someone to follow me around? Or is it M.O., the big mouth who sold me out? Li Moying pinched her puffed-up cheek as she shook her head. None of it is correct. But Li Lingchuan was supposed to go to Master today to have a discussion today, but he was late for almost an hour. So linking it all up, he should have met you on his way there. You can also listen on. Huang Yueli pouted as she muttered, Aren't you a little too smart? You can even link this up. Then I'll ask you. Can you guess what he told me? Li Moying indifferently replied. What else can it be? He probably tried to scare you to stop me from going to the ancient mystic region. Huang Yueli was really shocked. You actually guessed this correctly as well. That's right, he indeed said that. He said that when you weren't around, I will definitely be bullied by the others. So he want me to beg you to stay and accompany me. Did he think I am an idiot? She exclaimed furiously. Li Lingchuan's words were simply insulting her wisdom. Li Moying couldn't help but shook his head as he laughed out. I knew he's a dumb fool, so just ignore him and let him go act out his single role. He knew many years ago that Li Lingchuan's aim was to replace him, to become Celestial Light Sect's future patriarch. But Li Lingchuan had never thought that in actual fact, Li Moying totally had no interest in Celestial Light Sect. It was a matter of time before he left, and he would not become competitors with him at all. It was Li Lingchuan who was treading on death's path all along. If this carried on, sooner or later, his little life would be thrown away. Although Li Moying didn't say it clearly, but their hearts were linked, so just from his cold smile, she was able to guess his intention. She couldn't help but laugh as she said, That's right, so the matter regarding the ancient mystic region is real? Li Lingchuan said Green Cloud Sect sent someone here so that they can activate the ancient mystic region with your sect? That's a newly discovered mystic region? Li Moying nodded. This matter is real, and Green Cloud Sect had been lucky. This was rumored to from an ancient record, which had been lost in transmission, and in it they discovered an ancient cave which had been left behind by an ancient deity, so they spent quite an amount of effort before they certified the location. This originally wouldn't be revealed to us, Celestial Light Sect. But too bad, they don't have enough 9th-stage realm practitioners in their sect, and, out of desperation, hence they decided to cooperate with us. The minute Huang Yueli heard his confirmation, she became even more excited. Really? A super expert who broke through to God Realm. These people all seem to be living in God Realm and very rarely return to Soaring Heaven's continent. This kind of mystic region is something which doesn't come by often. There must be a lot of treasures inside. Li Moying looked at her as he smiled. Why? From your meaning, it sounds as if you want to join in as well. Huang Yueli blinked. That's a given, Li Moying said. With such an opportunity, the quota is very small, and after each of the departments in the sect fight head-to-head over this, the chance will only be given to direct disciples. Huang Yueli stared at him in dissatisfaction. What do you mean? Are you telling me that as fiancé of young sect master, I cannot enter? Li Moying's eyebrows rose as his good-looking face leaned in close to hers. Give me a kiss, and I'll bring you in. Huang Yueli didn't kiss him. Instead, she stretched out her and pulled his ears. Fat hope. I'm telling you, Li Lingchuan said that if you were to go in, then if a pathetic fourth-stage realm practitioner like me stays outside here, a lot of people will be waiting to bully me, and by then, I will suffer a terrible fate. Who else can bully you? Aren't you the one who is always bullying others? Every single day when I go out, I hear people complaining to me that you're beating this person or that person on that day. Li Moying intentionally laughed at her. That's because they deserve to be beaten up. It's a waste of energy for me to beat them up, all right? Huang Yueli replied in an upset tone. You can also listen on. Seeing that Huang Yueli was slightly unhappy, Li Moying finally smiled and said in a conceited tone, All right, you've already said that you're young sect master's fiancé, so how can we not allow you to enter the mystic region? Rest assured. Huang Yueli looked up as she gave him a chilly glance. Not going to despise a fourth-stage realm practitioner like me from obstructing your way. Li Moying laughed out as he gently held her slender waist. How could that be possible? Our #1 armament master willing to lower her status to form a team with me. That should be my honor. Huang Yueli then spoke satisfactorily in a pampered, arrogant tone. At least you know how to talk. Li Lingchuan had never thought that Li Moying would bring Huang Yueli into the mystic region together, because normally, for a 7th-stage realm expert like Li Moying, having a 4th-stage realm lass around was a troublesome thing. If they only went to safe places, then there's no meaning in going to the mystic regions. But if they were to go take risks, they would easily be dragged down by people of lower cultivation. He had never imagined that under the heavens there was someone as illogical as Huang Yueli existed. In actual fact, Li Moying was still a little worried about Huang Yueli's safety, but he had the confidence to protect Huang Yueli. Moreover, this young lass loved to take risks naturally, so even if he wanted to stop her, he wasn't able to, so he might as well not waste his energy in doing so. 2 days later, the people from Green Cloud Sect had arrived. As Green Cloud Sect's sect master brought along a few elders. So it was such an exceptionally festive occasion that even Murongda and the rest put on their formal clothes as they gave them a warm welcome at the entrance of the sect. Li Moying also gave Murongda some face as he went out to welcome them as well. Huang Yueli was merely an outer disciple, so she had no rights to follow the sect master around, nor did she want to be the limelight. But as Su Qingwei and the others went on ahead to join the bustle, so she tagged along with them. When Green Cloud Sect's flying ship descended, it looked even more luxurious and grander than Celestial Light Sect's, and the grandeur was magnificent. It was evident that the intent of suppressing Celestial Light Sect from the start was there. Hearing the surroundings echoing with phrases such as so pretty and so incredible, Huang Yueli frowned. From the looks of this, Green Cloud Sect obviously came with malicious intent. If they were really sincere in the talk on cooperation, then did they need to use such a provocative manner for this visit? Not much long later, Green Cloud Sect's sect master alighted from the flying ship. Green Cloud Sect's sect master was Cui Yuan Shan. Huang Yueli heard of his name long ago, and he should be around the same age as Murongda this year, and was also a 9th-stage realm top expert. But although they were both 9th-stage realm practitioners, but the disparity between their abilities was huge. Cui Yuanshan's total power as compared to Murongda's had stood out by a huge chunk. Cui Yuanshan walked to the entrance of the mountain bearing an arrogant look as he greeted Murongda in a neither cold nor warm attitude. Younger brother Murong, I not expected for us to meet so quickly once again. Murongda's expression stiffened a little, but following by a cold harumph, he replied, That's right, we meet again in such a short amount of time. It's really unexpected. Originally, I had assumed that with Brother Chui's arrogance, after losing so terribly in the tournament which was held before, you would take quite a long while before you appear in front of us. Cui Yuanshan's expression finally changed as his mustache curled upwards from his anger. This was just a slip-up. Moreover, you are just plain lucky to have taken in such a good disciple. It wasn't because of your own ability, so what's there to be complacent about? Murong saw that he was infuriated, so his smile became even happier. Look at what you're saying. At our current age, cultivation is something which is difficult to proceed any further. So we can only compare between our disciples. To teach our disciples in the correct way is the greatest ability. You can also listen on. Hearing their conversation, the outer disciples crowded around were all puzzled. What's the situation? Wasn't it said that Green Cloud Sect's sect master is specially here to pay a visit to our Celestial Light sect? Why does it seem like they came with ill intentions? Sigh, you must be a newcomer? No wonder you don't understand the situation. A few months ago, Green Cloud Sect's sect master brought along a bunch of disciples, saying that they were here to have an exchange. In the end, they were beaten badly by our young sect master as they ran back to their sect with their tails tucked behind. You tell me, how could our relationship be good at all? Oh, what? Something like that happened? What's the point for me to bluff you? You see the young man dressed in navy blue robe, just standing behind sect master Chui? He's sect master's eldest disciple, Lung Yifeng. I heard that he's a 9th grade talent. In the end, he totally wasn't a match for our young sect master. Wow, then our young sect master is really powerful. Little wonder that he's the male god of Celestial Light sect. But that Mr. Lung is also not bad-looking, refined, and elegant. So what about that? As long as he goes against young sect master, that means he's an enemy of Celestial Light sect. Don't you dare be smitten towards our enemy. The number of disciples he brought along weren't very little, but the most outstanding was the one who followed closely, and he should be Lung Yifeng, who the other disciples were gossiping about. Lung Yifeng indeed was a man of talent. Just from his imposing manner, he should be around 6th stage realm, between 7th or 8th level, and he looked stronger than Li Lingchuan and Murong Fei. Besides him, Cui Yuanshan also brought along 5 to 6 other disciples who were all 6th stage realm and above. It was a magnificent scene to see them all standing there. But no matter how many strong and powerful disciples there were in Green Cloud Sect, there wasn't any use at all. Celestial Light Sect only needed one Li Moying and was enough to shine over the others. Cui Yuanshan was ridiculed by Murong, so his expression was steely green. It took him quite some time to suppress the anger in his heart as he gave a few cold harumphs. Younger brother Murong, you still have the cheek to say you know how to teach your disciple? Do you believe that if I were Mr. Li's master, he might already had reached 8th stage realm by now? Following you is obviously a huge delay. Mr. Li, why not you consider again? If you wish to come over to Green Cloud Sect, just feel free to open your mouth. Hearing that, Murong seemed as like his cattail was trodden on as he almost jumped up. Brother Chui, poaching another sect's disciples is something which is against the society's rules. If you're not afraid that the other sects would get together to go against you, just wait and see. Yo, why so uptight? You know that you don't have enough ability, so you're really afraid your disciple will run away? Cui Yuanshan continued with his sarcasm. Li Moying didn't show much reaction, but Lung Feng Yi, on the other hand, clenched his fist tightly, trying his best to suppress his emotions, but he still revealed some hints of jealousy and hatred. He was once someone who was flushed with success, one whom the entire sect had treated as a moon by the crowd, thinking that he was the best candidate to revive their sect. In the end, the last time Cui Yuanshan brought him to Celestial Light Sect for a showdown, he originally was on the winning side. But whoever knew that just as all the other Celestial Light Sect disciples were all beaten flat, this Li Moying suddenly came rushing over. Li Moying was travel-worn and hadn't even changed out of his sweat-drenched clothes when he ran up the stage and make his moves against him. At that time, Lung Feng, he was still laughing in his heart. With such a condition like that, was he thinking of winning a genius like himself? You can also listen on. But in the end, he was severely hit in the face. Li Moying defeated him in a jiffy, and later on, it was as though he had swatted dead a housefly. He perfunctorily cupped one fist in the other hand and left. From the start to the end, Li Moying didn't even look at him in the eye, making Lung Feng Yi suspect that even until this day, if Li Moying knew who the person whom he had defeated was. As for now, his master actually said such things to Murong publicly. Although it looked like a joke, but Lung Feng Yi knew clearly that his master had been coveting Li Moying for a long time. If Li Moying really came to Green Cloud Sect, then would he Lung Feng Yi still had any standing? Lung Feng Yi was feeling jealous and was filled with hatred as he looked towards Li Moying. Li Moying seemed as though he had sensed his gaze as he silently swept a glance at him. Lung Feng Yi had just exchanged glances for just 1 second, but felt as though he had been struck by lightning as his entire body shook, because that pair of eyes was just too deep, as abstruse as the netherworld, and gloomy and melancholic, making one had the jitters. It was too terrifying. At the same time, Murong was repeatedly being ridiculed as he also started to become anxious. Facing Cui Yuanshan, he totally had no stand at all, and the words he said were extremely fictitious. That one surnamed Cui. Don't even think of using these lousy schemes to strain us master and disciple relationship. Moying had grown up in Celestial Light Sect since young, and he had deep-set feelings towards the sect, so he will absolutely not do anything to betray our sect. Haha, I think Master Li is just giving you face, so he finds it ill at ease to say it out. Actually, he knows clearly that just a mere Celestial Light Sect. The water is too shallow, so it cannot accommodate a submerged dragon like him. Master Li, am I right to say that? Cui Yuanshan continued to chuckle. Frankly speaking, for a genius like Li Moying, he knew that even his Green Cloud Sect couldn't accommodate him. But why was Celestial Light Sect's luck so good that they casually took a disciple of his caliber like that? This kind of dog-sh**t luck really made one jealous. He just wanted to take a dig at Murong. When Murong heard that, he couldn't laugh at all. The few of them all looked towards Li Moying, not knowing how he would reply. Li Moying's gaze swept past those few people in Green Cloud Sect and expressionlessly replied, "Thank you, Sect Master Cui, for your good intentions, but I, Li Moying, is a man of sentimental values. That year it was Master who saved me when I almost died in the snowy ground. He brought me back to the sect, and I will never forget this gratitude forever. So unless Celestial Light Sect wants to drive me away, forcing me to leave, otherwise I will absolutely not leave Celestial Light Sect." The speed of his tone was very slow, but each word was extremely clear and distinct, so elegant and valuable that no one doubted the actuality of his words at all. When Murong heard what he said, the huge stone weighing on his heart immediately dropped onto the ground. He revealed a smile as he said to Cui Yuanshan, "Haha, this disciple of mine is so sentimental and loyal. Even the words he says are so direct. Sigh, sometimes I also feel like I'm in a difficult position. His character is so straight, so he might meet with some villains who don't have any eyes, so what should we do?" Although he said difficult position, but in actual fact his heart was blooming with flowers. He had not expected Li Moying to stand up for him, especially in front of Cui Yuanshan. These words simply added more glow on his face. Just seeing Cui Yuanshan's envious and infuriated expression, his waist was no longer sore and his feet no longer hurt. His entire condition couldn't be any better, as he was even happier than when he first broke through to the 9th stage realm. In total, just one word, refreshing. You can also listen on. At this particular moment, Murong was feeling extremely lucky that he hadn't listened to Murong Fei a few days ago to deal with Li Moying's fiancée. If Li Moying could stay on in Celestial Light Sect forever, standing up for Celestial Light Sect, then what's the difference on whom he married? He originally wanted Murong Fei to marry him was exactly because he was afraid that Li Moying's wings would grow so strong that he would run away one fine day. Now, Li Moying had already clearly stated his attitude. Regarding Celestial Light Sect's matters, there was no way that he wouldn't care about it, but Celestial Light Sect was not able to force him to do things which he didn't want to do. Murong wasn't silly as well, so he knew that what he was referring to was his own marriage. Speaking about this, Murong had no way of opposing to what he said. Instead, he couldn't wait to go pull strings with Li Moying's rumored fiancée. For that young lass to win such great favor, it meant that she stood a huge place in Li Moying's heart, so she was someone who he couldn't afford to offend. However, Cui Yuanshan's expression turned ugly. Li Moying's words were equivalent to slapping his face. His poaching was openly rejected, and to such an embarrassing degree. This, as compared to Lung Feng, being defeated in one strike, was almost the same. He thought that Li Moying wouldn't dare to offend a 9th-stage realm practitioner and would at least leave him some face. In the end, how would Cui Yuanshan knew that Li Moying had already regained part of Mu Chengying's memories. He had met plenty of 9th-stage realm practitioners in the past, and without any exception, they were all defeated by him, so why would he care about Cui Yuanshan at all? Cui Yuanshan's expression turned green and white. Murong, on the other hand, seemed flushed with success as he broke out into a broad smile to welcome his guests. Come on, Brother Cui, let's stop blocking the entrance to chat. Hurry on into the sect. After we parted ways that day, I really missed those times when we were together, so I've specially set up a banquet in the main hall of the sect to welcome all of you. You've been over to Celestial Light's sect's main hall. Do you still remember it? That's the exact same main hall where the last tournament was held, when Moying suddenly appeared and defeated every opponent he met. Huang Yuli looked at the departing figures of these group of people and couldn't help but rolled her eyes towards the sky. Although Cui Yuanshan and the rest backs were facing her, and she couldn't see their expressions, but to think, she knew that every in Green Cloud sect were probably going mad from fury. As the saying went, don't hit one's face when you're having a fight. Morongda intentionally mentioned the last event where they were beaten hands down and even set the banquet at where they had been defeated. Murongda's skill at infuriating others really didn't lose out to Murong Fei at all. No wonder they're biological father and daughter. But on account that they treated Li Moying pretty well, she could still barely force herself to believe that he was a good guy. After Huang Yueli was done with watching the show, she returned to the courtyard. She gauged that Li Moying wouldn't be back so early, so she thought about going into the armament refining room to refine some small stuff. But before she even lit the fire, Mo.E came knocking on the door. Third Miss, Master sent a message earlier saying that he hopes that you can accompany him to entertain the valuable guests from Green Cloud Sect at the banquet this evening. Huang Yueli went into a blank for a moment and immediately replied, Banquet? I'm not interested, not going. Although she loved bustles, but she hated to entertain other people. So for this kind of hypocritical event, where she had to speak according to what kind of people she met, she rarely attended in her past life. Li Moying was almost the same, and if he was forced to join in such events, he would usually put on his cold face and not speak a single word from the start till the end. When others say him, they were usually afraid, and there were few who had the qualifications to strike up a conversation with him, so this was a major embarrassment. What was wrong with Li Moying today for him to ask her to join the banquet? You can also listen on. Mo.E hurriedly said, Third Miss, it's best that you go this round. This time I heard that Sect Master wanted to meet you, so the young Sect Master specially noted this. Master even said that if you don't like this kind of events, he will not ask you to go next time, but for this time, he needs your help. Since Li Moying had already said this, Huang Yueli had no way to reject. All right, then I'll make my way over. She nodded, and just as she was about to stand up, Mo.E added, Third Miss, Master has already prepared the gown which you will be putting on for the banquet. Will you please take a look? He clapped his hand, and a few serving maids carried their own trays as they walked over. Huang Yueli took a look. A set of exquisite flowing dress was placed on the tray, and it was exactly the same design which she loved in her past life. Furthermore, this dress was made entirely out of heaven arachnid azure silk, and each silk strand was worth at least 10,000 upper-grade spirit stones to weave into clothes. It looked white, but with every movement from the wearer from different angles, the clothes would reflect different luster and color, with brilliant flowing lights, and it was extremely luxurious. Ordinary people would use heaven arachnid azure silk to weave into belts or similar accessories, and that was something which was already difficult to obtain. For Li Moying to use it extravagantly to weave into a dress was rarely seen. When Huang Yueli saw this dress, she was extremely happy. Taking a look at the other serving maids' trays with various exquisite accessories, she was delighted that they were filled with all those which she loved in her past life. The corners of her lips couldn't help but raise upwards as her mood turned light and joyous. The items which Li Moying sent were very expensive, but this was secondary. What was most important was that he actually recalled her likes in her past life, and after so many years had passed, he hadn't forgotten about it all. That meant that he really had regained part of his memories, and moreover, he finally put her in his heart. Huang Yueli took the dress and returned to her room to change into it. Then she put on some makeup before following the shadow guards, which Li Moying had sent over, as she proceeded towards the main hall. At this moment, Li Moying was standing right outside the main hall waiting for her. On seeing Huang Yueli, Li Moying immediately stood in a daze, and subsequently, he gasped in admiration. He walked over and held her hand as he said in a mellow voice, "You look simply stunning in the flowing dress. You're so beautiful that I can't believe it." Huang Yueli smiled sweetly as she pulled up the hem of her dress, as turned sideways slightly. The luxurious heaven azure silk followed her movements, striking a dazzling arc. That golden ray accompanied with her slender figure looked like a dream. Li Moying also was dazed as he couldn't help but hugged her while speaking beside her ear. "What should I do? You're just too beautiful that I don't dare to bring you to the banquet. If someone else falls in love with you, what should I do?" Huang Yueli said laughingly. "Why? Young sect master Li also has his moments of no self-confidence. You're South Sky region's #1 genius. Which man can be more powerful than you? I'm not blind, so why would I shift my affections onto another person? Moreover, there are so many female disciples who are secretly in love with you. Since I'm not worried, what do you have to worry about?" The ending of those words sounded a little sour. Li Moying touched his nose, instinctively feeling that this topic shouldn't go on. He hurriedly said, "The banquet has started and we're already late, so let's hurry and go in." Saying that, he stretched out his arm towards Huang Yueli, allowing her to hook her own arm onto his before he started leading her into the banquet hall slowly. You can also listen on. By now, the banquet had already started for quite some time. The important guests had already arrived at the banquet, and only lacking Li Moying, but unfortunately, he was one of the people who attracted the most attention. So many people were already trying to find out why he hadn't arrived yet. Just as this moment, the main hall's main entrance opened up and a lovely couple Li Moying and Huang Yueli walked right in. The minute they appeared, everyone's eyes fell onto them uncontrollably. This couple, in terms of external looks, was simply too outstanding. Li Moying's good looks were the same as his ability, which enjoyed a widespread reputation. All the young ladies present, no matter if they were from Celestial Light Sect or Green Cloud Sect, bore some admirations of love for him. Usually, just one expression of his was enough to cause an uproar among the young ladies, but today, in order to tie in with Huang Yueli, he specially adorned himself, which made him look handsome beyond words, unable to find a single flaw on him. But this wasn't the most shocking thing. The real matter which made everyone surprised was the young lady beside him. This was absolutely the first time when Li Moying brought a female companion to take part in a banquet. Just this fact alone was enough to make all the young ladies' hearts shatter into pieces. But what made one even more melancholic was the young lady beside him was simply too stunning. Almond-shaped eyes and peach cheeks. Her complexion was pearly white, and that petite figure was slender and thin. What attracted the most attention was that set of flowing dress on her. Some of the higher-grade practitioners who were more experienced could tell the material of the dress on her, and they all drew in a mouthful of cold air. Just the price of this dress alone was enough to purchase a 6th-tier profound armament. There's someone who spent such a huge fortune just to look beautiful, buying a useless piece of ordinary dress? What was called extravagant. This was real extravagance. Murong Fei was standing by the side, and almost gnashed her teeth to pieces when she saw this. Earlier, when Huang Yueli and Li Moying entered the hall together, she was already so jealous that she almost died. Then on seeing Huang Yueli's piece of beautiful and expensive flowing dress, she was even more infuriated that she started shaking all over. She could tell that for a country bumpkin like Huang Yueli, how would she be able to afford such an expensive dress? Then looking at all the accessories on her, those were definitely given to her by Li Moying. What ability did this little vixen had? Why was she able to seduce Li Moying, not only bringing her to such an important function and furthermore, giving her such an expensive clothing, a flowing dress made out of heaven arachnid azure silk? As Celestial Light's sex eldest young miss, she couldn't bear to part with her money to buy it. What right did this wretched lass have to wear such a great dress? Murong Fei was so upset that she couldn't wait to strip Huang Yueli's dress down from her on the spot. Li Moying hugged Huang Yueli's slender waist tightly as she led him to the front of Murong De and Cui Yuanshan. Cui Yuanshan looked at them in surprise as he asked, "Master Li, may I ask, this young lady is your—" Li Moying introduced. "Miss Bai here is my fiancée. We've been prenatally betrothed since young, and half a year ago, I went back to South Yu Kingdom and officially set this marriage. Lear, this is my master, Sect Master Moronda, and this is Sect Master Chui from Green Cloud Sect." Huang Yueli put on an obedient look as she greeted the two sect masters. Moronda sized Huang Yueli up as he secretly nodded his head in his heart. When he heard Murong Fei's description in the past, he thought that she was a selfish young lady who wasn't presentable at all. But seeing her today, his perception of her totally changed. You can also listen on. But on second thoughts, for someone like Li Moying, how could his taste possibly be bad? Probably Murong Fei had said it out of jealousy and intentionally made her out to be so. Murong didn't want to think of his daughter in such a bad way, but the truth was staring right at him. He secretly sighed as he nodded at Huang Yueli. "Miss Bai, thank you for saving Moying that time. I haven't had the chance to express my gratitude." Huang Yueli smiled. "There's no need for thanks. Moying is my fiancé, so it's something that I should do if I can help him in anything." When Li Moying heard that, his heart was touched as he squeezed Huang Yueli's hand. Huang Yueli turned her head over towards him and smiled. Cui Yuanshan saw this and was chuckling. So, Master Li actually had a prenatal betrothed fiancé. In the past, I'd always thought that eldest Miss Murong and Master Li was a couple. I'd not expected. When Murong heard that, his expression changed immediately. The taunt in Cui Yuanshan's words were too obvious, so no one was able to ignore it all. "Looks like it's indeed my own mistake. Master Li and Miss Bai are an ideal couple, and you indeed look compatible. No wonder you don't have any interest in Sect Master's daughter. Congratulations to the both of you." Cui Yuanshan added. When he said that, Moronda became even more embarrassed. However, the one who was more embarrassed was Murong Fei, who was standing right behind him. Initially, when she saw Li Moying and Huang Yueli appearing in such an endearing manner, it was enough to make her felt upset. But in the end, before things came to an end, it was actually used by Cui Yuanshan to work up a topic, as he immodestly taunted her in front of so many people. Murong Fei, had never been so embarrassed before. Alas, facing Cui Yuanshan, a 9th-stage realm practitioner who was even more powerful than her father, she had a way to rebuke him and no possibility of resistance at all. So she could only direct all her fury towards Huang Yueli. The gaze which she casted onto her simply felt as though it was a dagger laced with poison. It was all because of this little slut. If it hadn't been for her who had shamelessly climbed on an eldest senior brother's bed, then the person who was standing next to Li Moying would be her, Murong Fei. How could she possibly accept such humiliation? Li Moying's gaze coldly swept past Cui Yuanshan, but he didn't say anything else except, "My fiancée hasn't taken her dinner and is a little hungry. I'll bring her to get some food, so excuse me." Saying that, he took Huang Yueli's hand and left. This scene made Cui Yuanshan's face reveal a deep and meaningful smile. Early this morning, he talked bad about Murong De, and Li Moying automatically jumped out to rebuke him. But now that he talked about Murong Fei, Li Moying actually had no reaction at all. Looked like this eldest Miss Murong really didn't know how to hold a man's heart. Li Moying had completely treated her as thin air, as his eyes only had this rumored fiancé. This was something rare, not knowing just how outstanding this Miss Bai was, to be able to make Celestial Light's sex eldest Miss become a dreg. Murong Fei had been totally dismissed by Li Moying and was so infuriated that she almost rushed over. Luckily, Li Lingchuan, who was standing beside her, stopped her. Third junior sister, don't be rash. Can't you see that eldest senior brother is so protective of her? Even if you wanted to make things difficult for her, then you'll need a reason, isn't it? Don't be rash. We've already arranged everything, so just wait and see. Don't you jump out by yourself and spoil our plan. Murong Fei thought of their plans and forcefully tolerated with her anger as she remained still on the spot. You can also listen on. Li Moying brought Huang Yueli to his seat as he prepared to take a seat. As Celestial Light Sect's young sect master, he had always been sitting on one seat lower to Murong De, which was in the middle position. Just as the two of them were preparing to sit down, a maid suddenly appeared behind the both of them as she stopped them. Miss Bai, your seat is not here. Li Moying gave her an icy cold stare. What's going on? You're new? Don't you know the regulations? The maid was severely stared at by Li Moying, and she suddenly felt her legs going soft as sweat started to profuse from her forehead. Murong Fei designated her to pass the message, and she thought she was on a lucky track to be able to go near to young sect master at such a short distance. In the end, when she finally reached Li Moying, she realized that just one gaze or one action actually made one terrified. But no matter how afraid she was, she had no way to retreat right now, so she could only brace herself as she continued talking. Young sect master, your seat is indeed here, but Miss Bai's only an outer disciple. She cannot sit here. Li Moying's expression immediately sunk as his gaze turned surly with a tinge of bitter frost. He cried out sharply, "Who are you to give my woman instructions?" Scram! His voice held the suppression of profound energy as it was filled with grim and rigor. The maid was merely a third-stage realm practitioner and simply couldn't take it as she was pushed back and blood started trickling down the corner of her mouth. Evident ally, suffering from a serious internal injury. Li Moying didn't even bother to look at her as he pulled Huang Yueli's hand, leading her to take a seat. Just at this moment, another voice was heard. Eldest senior brother, why must you do this? Why must you vent your anger on a lowly little maid? It's not as though you don't know about the sect's regulations. For such a formal occasion in the sect, everyone must take their seats according to their own ability and status, not just using their relations to sit wherever they liked. By doing this, aren't you bringing shame to Celestial Light Sect? The person who said those was Li Lingchuan. Both Murong Fei and him appeared behind them together. Li Lingchuan's words resounded out sharply as he intentionally made sure everyone in the entire event hall heard that. Momentarily, everyone's gaze was casted upon them, especially those Green Cloud Sect's disciples, as they sensitively felt that something major was going to happen. All of them kept their eyes peeled, but didn't understand what was going on. Li Moying's pitch-black eyes flashed a sliver of iciness. Li Lingchuan, your guts is certainly not small. You actually dare you appear in front of me. I'll let you off because I don't want to dirty my hands. Instead of tucking your tail in to be a proper human, you actually dare to be disrespectful to my woman? Who gave you the guts to do so? Li Lingchuan was forced back by his imposing manner as he couldn't help but took a step back as he was secretly shocked. His eldest senior brother's potential seemed to have raised several notches from when they last met in the Dark Moon Forest. This was just too terrifying and too ridiculous. He tried his best to stabilize his messy internal breathing as he shouted, Eldest senior brother, if you have something against your junior brother me, we can talk about it later, but now Celestial Light Sect is holding an important function, a banquet for Green Cloud Sect, and you actually outrightly do something against the sect's regulations. Aren't you throwing our sect's reputation away in front of others? I'm purely thinking for Celestial Light Sect and absolutely not going against you. So, eldest senior brother, please don't misunderstand this. You can also listen on. Li Lingchuan's words were wrapped up beautifully, but everyone could tell that he was intentionally going against Li Moing. Celestial Light's sex disciples were all breaking out in cold sweat, feeling that Li Lingchuan must have gone mad. He actually had the audacity to provoke Li Moying's authority and even provoked him openly in front of other sects. Even if he could go past today safely, he would probably be fixed terribly by Li Moing another day, right? What on earth was going in his mind? Whereas for Green Cloud sect disciples, all of them started to find out about Li Lingchuan's matter, as they were all interested in this kind of gossip. Cui Yuanshan played around with his 2 blades of mustache as he laughed heartily, even turning around to speak to Murong De, who was standing beside him. I say, Junior Brother Murong, your sect regulations are pretty strict. Ability speaks within the sect, and this is the basis of your sect's thrive. Furthermore, your disciple is also taught well. Even if young sect master had done something wrong, he wasn't afraid of authority and stood out to lecture him. TSK, this is really a good disciple who thinks on behalf of the sect. When his words were out of his mouth, Murongda's face turned red, as he was as embarrassed as he could be. Cui Yuanshan appeared to be praising Celestial Light sect, but in actual fact, who couldn't tell that it was sarcasm? His disciples were not harmonious, and usually he closed one eye since they argued in private. But now in front of Green Cloud sect, making such a huge din, didn't they knew how embarrassing it was? Murongda called out sharply to Li Lingchuan. Lingchuan, what are you saying? Miss Bai is your future sister-in-law. Even if she sat at the upper seat, there's nothing wrong with that. Whoever knew that before Li Lingchuan could even open his mouth, Murong Fei had already talked back at him. Father, I cannot agree with what you said. How could you be so unfair? I'm your eldest daughter and Celestial Light's sect master's daughter. But usually those who can sit on the upper seats had always been eldest senior brother and second senior brother. My sister and I have always been seated according to our abilities and had never said we wanted to sit on the first seat. Since the sex regulations are so that even we have to abide it, then why can't Miss Bai abide by our sect regulations? How would Murong did not know that Murong Fei was just going dead against Li Moing's fiancée? But unfortunately, the words which Murong Fei said were reasonable and justified, totally unable to let anyone rebuke these words. Plus the fact that Green Cloud sex people were right beside him, so no matter what he said, it just wasn't correct. Murong Fei saw her father being beaten, and a smile surfaced on her mouth as she turned around to talk to Huang Yueli. Miss Bai, I'm so sorry. Outer disciples are usually not allowed to take part in this kind of function, but since your eldest senior brother's fiancé, then we have already aced it. So we've arranged a seat for you. Will you please sit by that side? Murong Fei's finger stuck out, and everyone's vision followed the direction of where her finger pointed to. On looking, everyone was shocked. A single table was placed right below the stage in the main hall, and it was even further back than the last table's position. The last table had always been in the main hall, but that table had been purposely placed outside the outer rim of the last table. If it was a bit further out, it would be out of the main hall's boundary. This time round, everyone could tell that Murong Fei intentionally wanted to humiliate Huang Yueli. My goodness, eldest young Mrs. Scheme is too vicious. What do you say? Will Miss Bai really go take a seat there? If she doesn't, what else can she do? Unless she directly leaves this place? This is really embarrassing? That's right, in the end, isn't it because of her own potential and status? Who else can she blame? You can also listen on. I wonder if young sect master will stand out for her. This is after all the venue for welcoming Green Cloud sect. Surely young sect master wouldn't have a fight with young Masterly, right? That we will totally become a laughing stock for Green Cloud sect. The crowd were discussing on their own, and all of them used a sympathetic gaze on Huang Yueli. To be humiliated openly in this kind of place, but unfortunately, her only backing Li Moing could not possibly help her. So many people placed themselves in the shoes of Huang Yueli, and all of them felt that if they had met with such a matter, they would definitely kill themselves by banging their heads onto the wall. This was really embarrassing, but there are many people who made sarcastic remarks as well. I feel that this Byruoli deserves this. Who asked her to overrate herself? She's merely an outer disciple and making use her status as young sect master's fiancée to attend such a formal event. Who does she think she is? Isn't that so? Since she'd already gained such a big advantage to become young sect master's fiancée, instead of indulging in her own happiness, why did she had to appear at the banquet? Look at the dress she's wearing and how much makeup she put on. Didn't she even think if her own status and cultivation was worthy of that dress? That's right. She should learn a lesson from here. Celestial Light Sect is a large sect which lineage had been around for 1,000 years. She cannot just rely on a man and act willfully according to her own wishes. Huang Yueli had snatched away the male god whom everyone hoped for, so she had long incurred the jealousy of numerous disciples, especially for those direct disciples. When they saw that Murong Fei's potential and status were higher than hers, they didn't dare to snatch him from her. But unfortunately, an outer disciple popped out and took Li Moying away. Everyone felt that their own status and ability had surpassed Huang Yueli, so naturally they were not convinced. The discussions reached Murong Fei's ears, and that made her even more delighted. She smiled coldly towards Huang Yueli. Miss Bai, what are you still hesitating about? Do you feel that you really have the ability to sit at this place? Haven't you thought that you're merely an outer disciple, and this status of outer disciple was obtained by passing yourself off as a senior sister in your academy? Not only that, you're just a practitioner from a neighboring small country, and your status is lowly. If even you can sit on such a high status seat by relying on a man, then would there still be any fairness within the sect in future? Murong Fei said this out loudly. It seemed as though she was afraid that Green Cloud sect's people didn't know about this, so she intentionally announced Huang Yueli's status and potential loudly for everyone to hear. She wanted to let everyone know that Huang Yueli had no abilities at all. She couldn't even become an outer disciple, and all she was a little slut who hugged onto the Li Moying's thigh while swindling him. All these so that she could make Huang Yueli humiliated not only within the sect, but outside as well. Dare to snatch her Murong Fei's man? She must let Huang Yueli lose both fortune and honor. The more Li Moying heard, the more his heart was firing up as he couldn't wait to slap these scums who dared to slander his leader. He was not merely thinking only. He wanted to take immediate action, and as his thoughts turned, his surround profound energy started to fluctuate and turn intense. Huang Yueli noticed it and hurriedly tugged his sleeves as she shook him gently. Li Moying's actions took a halt as he lowered his head to look at her. Huang Yueli raised her head and winked at him, telling him that she could settle this on her own and for him to be calm. Li Moying and her heart were linked, so he understood her meaning. He was still not unwilling to let go. He stared at her for a moment and hesitated but still wanted to make a move. Huang Yueli anxiously took a step in front of him, blocking his direction of making his move. You can also listen on. If Li Moying were really to make his move, then the banquet would really be ruined because Murong Fei would either end up dead or crippled. She didn't really care about the life and death of those two scums Murong Fei and Li Lingchuan. But in this way, Celestial Light Sect would totally be in a mess, and Li Moying would completely fall out with Murong Da. She didn't wish for Li Moying to pay such a heavy price because of her, because at this juncture, she could still handle it by herself. Huang Yueli spoke to Murong Fei. Miss Murong, what right do you have to say that I'm not qualified to sit here? Do you feel that my status isn't high enough, or my potential isn't strong enough? I think my status as young sect master's fiancé, even if I'm merely an outer disciple, but my status shouldn't be too bad, so that means you think my potential isn't strong enough? Murong Fei laughed coldly. That's right, you do know yourself quite well. The others who are seated here have both status and ability, except for you. You're so weak that you cannot even withstand a blow. You assume that you have a status. Don't you know that in soaring heaven's continent, only the strong are able to obtain the most valuable status? For someone like you, you're simply a joke." Her words were totally rude as she waited for Huang Yueli to turn embarrassed till she had no place to hide and could only leave the venue in anger. However, Huang Yueli gave a slight smile. "Miss Murong is absolutely right. In soaring heaven's continent, only the strong are worthy of being respected. The weak aren't even fit to lift up the shoes for anyone." Murong Fei was first stunned as she didn't expect Huang Yueli to say that. Could this wretched lass be mad? But very quickly she sneered. "It's good that you understand this logic, so why aren't you hurrying down to sit by the side?" Huang Yueli replied, "No hurry, I haven't finished my words. Since potential represents outseating, then does it mean that as long as I can defeat the practitioner who is sitting in an upper seat, then I can replace them and sit on their seat?" Murong Fei's eyes turned wide as she immediately started laughing out loudly. Right, you are absolutely right. But allow me to remind you that all the disciples seated here, other than you, are all Celestial Light Sect's direct disciples. I guess that you should have heard about the innate talent and potential about direct disciples, right? You wish to defeat them? Haven't you even considered how heavy you are? Not only Murong Fei, even those direct disciples who were seated here were all infuriated when they heard those words. This surely not right. Bairuoli actually intends to challenge direct disciples? That's right, is she mad? I know she's very outstanding among the outer disciples, and she indeed has some skills. But to have a battle with direct disciples? She's too full of herself. Matters regarding a practitioner's honor. We couldn't possibly just let her win, just because she's young sect master's fiancée. That's right, I know she's definitely not resigned to sit on the last seat, but this kind of challenge without thinking about the consequences, if she's defeated, then wouldn't it be even more embarrassing? What on earth is she thinking about? AI, young sect master's good name. Surely it would not be ruined in her hands today, right? Towards these sentences, Huang Yueli treated her as though she didn't hear anything. Her gaze was cold as she stared intently at Murong Fei and speaking in a clear voice. To be more precise, I wish to challenge you. Murong Fei thought that she had heard wrongly, and it took quite a while before she burst out into laughter. I say, am I hearing things? You intend to challenge me? You can also listen on. Murong Fei was smiling on the surface. Miss Bai, do you not know what is my cultivation level? Let me tell you, although my potential cannot be compared to eldest senior brothers, but I'm at least a 6th-stage realm, 1st-level practitioner. Your cultivation is at most 4th-stage realm? You wish to cross over 2 large realms to battle with me? Did you think that you're a peerless genius like eldest senior brother? Huang Yueli replied calmly. Wouldn't we find out when we have a battle? The discussions below the stage became even louder. Even Murong De couldn't help but became anxious. Li Lingchuan subconsciously turned back to look at Li Moying, only to discover that beside the frost on Li Moying's good-looking face, he didn't show any anxious emotions. Furthermore, he didn't seem as though he would stop these two from having the battle. This made Li Lingchuan frown uncontrollably as he couldn't tell what Li Moying was up to. Just some time ago, Li Moying was still burning up with fire, thinking to help Huang Yueli make a move. But now Huang Yueli's condition was even more precarious, as she would probably turn out either dead or injured in Murong Fei's hands. But Li Moying was totally not anxious at all. This was just too abnormal, right? Murong De couldn't stand it further as he stood up and shouted, "Enough, Feier and Miss Bai. This is the sect's official banquet, and not a place where both of you can do as you wished, so let's all stop this now. Today, I allowed Moying to bring Miss Bai along, so Miss Bai is considered as one of my valuable guests, so I'll make an exception today. Add a seat next to young Sectmaster for Miss Bai now." As Murong's instruction was given, his gaze brushed past coldly towards the few maids who were standing by the side. He was, after all, a 9th-stage realm top expert, and usually he was amiable, but when he really got fired up, the disciples didn't dare to go against him at all. The maids hurriedly ran across as they moved Huang Yueli's seat up. Murong Fei saw this and was feeling infuriated, not knowing why her father stood on Huang Yueli's side. The more she thought, the more unresigned she felt as she refused to give in. She continued to stare at Huang Yueli and laugh coldly. No wonder you said such things earlier. So you already knew that my father wouldn't allow us to fight. You're really good at pretending. Now you can openly take a seat over there, so congratulations. This was a bare provocation. Huang Yueli had actually intended to give face to Murongda, letting Murong Fei off, but on hearing these words, her face sunk as her footsteps halted. Eldest Miss Murong, does this mean that you don't want to give your father any face and insists on having a battle with me? Fair, Murongda howled angrily. He had never expected that his usually obedient and magnanimous daughter had lost control every single time when it was related to Li Moing's matters. Now she actually ignored the sect's reputation, and if this went on, he didn't dare to think how Green Cloud sect's people would laugh at them behind their backs. But right now, Murong Fei was intent on not listening to him, so much that even Huang Yueli's anger flared up. The two young ladies exchanged glances as their eyes were filled with an icy, cold bitterness. A battle was about to start. Just at this moment, a hurried shuffling of footsteps was heard coming from the main hall's entrance. A guard jogged along the way as he dashed into the banquet hall. On seeing the entire hall so quiet and with such a tense atmosphere, he was slightly shocked, but very quickly, he regained his senses as he bowed his head down to pay his respects. Reporting to Sect Master Chui, the Armament Guild's president who has already arrived at the sect. Before Murongda could say anything, he heard a burst of laughter coming from the door. Sect Master Murong, Sect Master Chui, I'm so sorry. I was delayed, so I arrived late. You can also listen on. The atmosphere now was already so tight that a serious rift could break out any second. But at this moment, a sudden light laugh was heard, and many of them didn't manage to regain their senses. President, whose words had just landed when he appeared at the entrance of the venue. He was dressed in a new Armament Master's long robe, and a 6th-tier Armament Master badge was pinned on his chest. His long hair was combed straight without any stray hairs, and his hand was touching his beard as he strode in with heavy steps. Anyone who saw him couldn't help but exclaim, "It's no wonder he's Sky Cloud City's Armament Guild president. He indeed had the air of a great master." He was still talking as he walked right in. "Both sect masters, we haven't met for many years. Today Sect Master Chui is here, and Sect Master Murong still remembered to invite me over for a drink, so this is indeed my utmost honor." Chui Yuanshan immediately smiled as he got up to welcome him. "Please don't say that President who? Junior Brother Murong and I had roamed around the South Sky region for experience training, and we have been taken care of by you a lot of times, so I've long wanted to have a gathering with you. Unfortunately, the last time I came by, it was in a rush, so now that Junior Brother Murong invited you over, I've been hoping for it for a long time." President who started chuckling, "So you still remember me. I thought that now that the both of you are 9th stage realm top experts, you no longer remember me at all." Murongda also hurriedly got up and said, "President who? Please take a seat." President who was actually on the same rank as Murongda's father. He was also a renowned top-tiered armament master in the South Sky region and considered to have watched Murongda and Shui Yuanshan growing up, so he had refined quite a number of profound armaments for them then. President whose innate talent was limited, and he had eventually stopped at the rank of 6th-tier armament master, but Murongda and Shui Yuanshan had always been respectful towards him. This time round they invited President who over. On one hand, it was because they wanted to have a gathering with this elder, while on the other hand, it was because the two of them had already reached an understanding regarding the ancient mystic regions matter. They needed to find a witness who enjoyed high prestige and command universal respect, so at the same point of time, they both thought of President who. Murongda and Shui Yuanshan had always been on loggerheads. To be able to find someone whom both parties could both agree upon wasn't easy, so they hurriedly sent out an invite to President who, inviting him to join in today's banquet. After President who exchanged conventional greetings with the both of them, his gaze shifted and fell onto Huang Yueli and Murong Fei, who were exchanging stares below the stage. President who was stunned as he spoke out in astonishment. "This is Murong following his line of vision, and his heart went thumped. He had not expected that after President who had created a lapse, but these two young lasses didn't take the opportunity to get off the stage. They were still in a deadlock at the same place. Murong Fei totally didn't consider the big picture. What kind of occasion was this? Throwing face in front of Green Cloud's sect wasn't considered, but now was she planning to let the people in the Armament Guild see them as a laughingstock as well? Murong's expression changed as he wanted to hurriedly chase the both of them away. But President Hu stood up and walked quickly beside Huang Yueli, as he smiled at her and greeted her first. Miss Bai, I've not expected that you've already returned to Celestial Light Sect with young sect masterly already. Looks like your wedding bells are ringing soon, eh? President Hu's favorable impression of Huang Yuli's wasn't just ordinary. The last time at the Armament Master Certification Assessment, Huang Yueli displayed such shocking talent in armament refining skills, which was enough to be nicknamed as South Sky Region's #1 armament refining genius. Her future accomplishments would absolutely be above him in future. You can also listen on. Furthermore, Huang Yueli didn't keep her secrets to herself, although she has such an exclusive technique at refining armaments. But during the certification assessment, she openly displayed her skills in front of every armament master, and displayed it not only once. Even President Hu himself learnt quite a number of things from Huang Yueli's armament refining skills and had reaped an enormous benefit out of it. For a generously humble, talented young lady with a bright future, President Hu had long treated her as Sky Cloud City's Armament Guild's future hope, as he admired her from the depths of his heart. Furthermore, President Hu felt that Huang Yueli and Li Moying were an extremely compatible pair. One was a peerless talent in terms of cultivation, while the other was an armament refining genius. They were just that compatible. An armament master status was invaluable, so, without Li Moying's status as young sect master, President Hu felt that he wasn't worthy of Huang Yueli. When Huang Yueli saw President Hu, her face also revealed a smile. President Hu, how have you been? President Hu said, last time at the Armament Master Certification Assessment, you promised me to come over to the Armament Guild. But in the end, I've not seen you appearing, so I thought you were busy. In the end, you actually left with young sect master. TSK, you're really too sticky. Youngsters nowadays. But just as well, since the both of you are so compatible and so loving, it's a good thing for you guys to get married earlier. Huang Yueli started to become shy from his words. President Hu? You're mistaken. Not so fast. I came to Celestial Light Sect to take a look at him only. The two of them looked extremely familiar with each other, and President Hu even started cracking jokes about Huang Yueli, so this made everyone at the scene extremely shocked. Who was President Hu? He's the #1 rated armament grandmaster in the entire South Sky region, and his fame was widespread. He had numerous disciples under his wing. Although his cultivation was absolutely not the best among the practitioners, but in terms of prestige, he was considered as a #1 figure in South Sky region, not any lower than Murongda. As for Huang Yueli, for what everyone saw, she was merely an outer disciple with an ordinary cultivation, hugging on to young sect master's thigh so that she could smuggle into this function. She should be some unattractive pipsqueak. Why would President Hu talk to her? Moreover, his attitude towards her seemed to carry some respect and lionization, absolutely not the attitude which an ordinary upper-class person had toward a junior. Not only that, President Hu even knew that she and Li Moying had a marriage agreement and even thought highly of the both of them. Had President Hu gone bonkers? The both of them. One was a peerless genius while the other was an outer disciple. In which way were they compatible? Murongda was absolutely the most shocked person among the others. He started at them with his eyes wide and tongue-tied, and he couldn't help but butted in. President Hu, what's going on? You're acquainted to Miss Bai? President Hu laughed. Of course I know her. I admire Miss Bai greatly. I haven't managed to congratulate Sect Master Murong in time. Your disciple here is really extraordinary. Initially, I thought that young sect master Li only knows how to cultivate, so I didn't expect him to be so good at choosing a lady. Moreover, his tactics are so swift. A lady like Byruoli is easily dibbled by him and already engaged at such a tender age. I can only express my utmost admiration for this action. Moron's jaw always dropped onto the ground when he heard that. What was the situation? Why did it sound as though that Moing marrying this Byruoli was a huge advantage? You can also listen on. Where on earth had gone wrong? Was President Who's consciousness really awake? President Who? What are you talking about? Moron had a dazed expression and was just about to open his mouth to ask in detail. President Who seemed to have recalled something as he looked his left and right, and he asked curiously, That's right. What are you all doing here? Isn't today's banquet supposed to make merry? Why are you all standing down below, and that young lady over there? President Who pointed at Murong Fei, not knowing who she was exactly. This made Murong Fei so infuriated that she almost fainted. Originally, for a top-rated armament master like President Who to not recognize a younger junior like her, it was something very normal and nothing strange about it. But if there were no comparisons, there wouldn't be any damage. Huang Yueli was much younger than her, and her cultivation was lower than her, but yet she was able to gain such value and closeness from President Who. Whereas for her a highly respected and valuable sect master's daughter was only referred to as that lady. Murong Fei had always had a good opinion of herself, and she felt that she was much valued than Huang Yueli, so since when had she suffered such humiliation? Huang Yueli indifferently glanced at Murong Fei and shrugged her shoulders as she replied in a disapproving look, Actually, there's nothing much. I was just about to go into a battle with this lady. If it wasn't President Who suddenly came in, we'd probably came out with a winner by now. President Who was shocked when he heard that. What? Are you going for a battle? What are you trying to do? Although there are plenty of young people around to liven up the battle. But you, how could you take part in it? One couldn't blame President Who for being so shocked because normal armament masters absolutely would not go into a battle with anyone under such a situation. On one hand, it was because an armament master status was very valuable, so for livening up events with battles, they would not lower their own status to take part. On the other hand, armament masters' cultivation, although might not be weak, but in most actual battles, their results were pretty bad. After all, their concentration wasn't placed on cultivation. Of course, the most important thing was an armament master's hand was priceless. Armament refining all relied on this pair of hands which could rake in money, and if they were hurt in the battle, that would be the largest loss which they couldn't afford to bear. Huang Yueli was not able to reply in time when Cui Yuanshan butted in. Master Who? You don't know what's going on. This young lady opposite Miss by his sect Master Murong's eldest daughter Murong Fei. Miss Murong bore good intentions, hoping that Miss Bai won't break the sect regulations and be seated on the upper seats, so she specially came over to maintain the disorder. President Who was lost in the fog. How come I don't understand what you're saying at all? Why would it be breaking the sect regulations if Miss Bai sat in an upper seat? Cui Yuanshan laughed. President Who, you don't know. Miss Bai's cultivation is not high and is merely an outer disciple in Celestial Light sect. In such a former occasion, the first few seats are arranged according to their potential and their status in the sect. Although Miss Bai is Mr. Li's fiancée, but surely she cannot sit here because of that, right? Miss Murong was kind-hearted enough to stop her, but in the end it seemed as though a misunderstanding had been created, hence they started arguing. Cui Yuanshan seemed to be praising Murong Fei on the surface, but in reality every single word was filled with ridicule, in an attempt to anger President Who. He was such an intelligent man. He had long seen through the fact that President Who had treated Huang Yueli differently, although he didn't know why he was so respectful to such a young lass. But Cui Yuanshan knew one thing at least, which was if Huang Yueli was bullied, President Who would definitely get angry. You can also listen on. President Who was the witness whom he and Murong invited over to be the judge. So, if Murong were to offend President Who, perhaps today President Who would be more biased and lean towards Green Cloud's sex side. Cui Yuanshan's brain was working fast as he immediately grabbed the chance before Muronda to speak out. When Muronda heard that, he immediately felt something was amiss. But the things which Shui Yuanshan said wasn't a lie, and in fact it was really truthful, so momentarily he didn't know how to explain as well. However, his hesitation for that one moment was already too late. Present, whose eyes bulged out as he blew his beard, throwing a huge temper. Sect Master Murong, is what Sect Master Chui said all true? Murong Fei hurriedly replied. Miss Bai indeed didn't have the qualification to take a seat in the upper seats, but President, who totally didn't hear his but, as he had already blown his top on hearing the first half of the sentence. He totally couldn't suppress his temper. Sect Master Murong, I really don't understand your sect's regulations, but why doesn't Miss Bai have the qualifications to sit in the upper seats? A 14-year-old obtaining a first-tier armament master certification, and her actual ability was enough to obtain a third-tier and above certification armament refining genius. So, it's so invaluable. Can I think that you're despising and humiliating our armament guild? President, who was angry for a reason. It wasn't just for Huang Yueli alone, but for the entire armament guild. An armament master status was highly respectable, especially for the young and talented armament refining genius. Their statuses were highly valuable in many large powerhouses. For this kind of function, a young armament master seat would normally be much higher than same-aged genius practitioners because armament refining talents were much rarer than cultivation talents. There was no need to say that for a super genius like Huang Yueli, there probably wasn't a second one in the entire Soaring Heavens continent. Just what kind of outstanding existence was this? Celestial Light Sect was just a large sect in the South Sky region, and not even in place within Sky Emperor City, and they actually dared to allow this kind of genius to sit at the last seat? Any armament master who saw this would not be able to endure it, all right? Muronda had not expected the usually gentle president who to suddenly flare up as he was momentarily shocked. After he heard President Hu's words clearly, he was even more shocked as he totally couldn't recover his senses. This, President Hu? Are you sure you didn't get it wrong? This Miss Bai is a certified armament master? How could this be possible? Hearing Li Moying's fiancée was only 14 or 15 years old. Such a young certified armament master had not appeared within the South Sky region before. President Hu angrily retorted, Could I be lying to you? Miss Bai was awarded as a first-tier armament master by me personally when I presided over that certification assessment. Moreover, she displayed shocking armament refining talent during the assessment. With her potential, obtaining a third or fourth-tier certification isn't a problem at all. According to the Armament Guild's regulations, armament masters of second tier and above needs to be certified at the guild, otherwise I will already have issued her with a third-tier badge. TTT. Third tier? Muronda felt that his tongue was going stiff as he couldn't even speak properly. Was he having a problem with his hearing? A 14-year-old third-tier armament master. How could this be possible? This wasn't something which could be described with a mere armament refining genius. Generally, those armament masters who could reach third tier before the age of 25 were all considered to have a boundless future. They would at least reach a level of 6th tier and above high-leveled armament grandmaster. You can also listen on. What concept was a 6th tier armament master? Even in Sky Emperor City, that would be a reputable VIP. What more in South Sky region? President Hu himself was only in 6th tier. If a 14-year-old could reach 3rd tier, then what would her future be? This was simply unimaginable. Frankly speaking, if this was said by another person, Muronda would not believe it at all because a 14-year-old 3rd-tier armament master was simply too ridiculous. No one would ever believe such a matter without any evidence. But since President Hu was the one who said that, based on his title as a respectable armament grandmaster to say such a thing, there was no choice except to believe in his words. President Hu looked at Muronda's expression as though he had been struck by lightning, but still hadn't vented his anger enough as he continued. Furthermore, this Miss Bai's background isn't ordinary as well. Her master is an armament grandmaster from Sky Emperor City, at least 8th tier and above. Based on her innate talent, and with the coaching of a reputable master, her future. I think you don't need me to say more about this, right? Muronda was completely stunned by now. An 8th tier armament master in Sky Emperor City. Those were reputable people with great value. Even for a sect like Celestial Light Sect, even if they gave all their fortunes, they might even be scorned. This young lass's luck was actually that good, to be under the wing of an 8th tier armament master. But it's no wonder because based on her innate talent, which armament master wouldn't be moved, they would absolutely fight to let her become their disciple. President Hu saw his dumbstruck look and finally understood that Muronda totally wasn't aware of the truth. He gave a cold harumph and said, "So now are you clear? Young sect master Li's cultivational innate talent may be hard to find, but Miss Bai's armament refining innate talent is something which is hard to come by in 100 years. In what way are they not compatible? Don't take it for granted. This kind of armament refining talent can't be found anywhere else. And now, for her fiancé, she came over to your Celestial Light sect. Instead of treasuring this luck, you actually wanted to let her sit in the last seat? Why? Do you think that we armament masters are an easy lot to bully? Miss Bai's too sentimental, that's why she didn't leave immediately. Just wait until she cannot tolerate it any further by these petty people's actions. I'd like to see where you run off to cry." Muronda originally was already very remorseful, but after being scolded by President Hu, his sweat started dripping down. He immediately turned towards Huang Yueli and spoke politely. "Miss Bai, so you're a certified armament master. Why didn't you tell us earlier? Moing didn't tell us clearly on this. Quick, please have a seat." Huang Yueli didn't give a reply as her gaze fell onto Murong Fei. At this present moment, Murong Fei's expression was not just describable with the word pale. She stared at Huang Yueli in disbelief, as though she had just seen a ghost. In the past, she heard that Huang Yueli knew how to refine armaments or something as such, but she didn't let it stay inside her heart. There were a few armament refining talents in Celestial Light Sect, and there were occasions where 14 or 15-year-olds were barely able to pass the first-tier armament master certification assessment. Murong Fei was an 8th grade talented practitioner, so this was much rarer than ordinary armament refining talents. But after hearing what President Hu said today, Murong Fei realized that she had belittled Huang Yueli. She actually reached the standard of a 3rd-tier armament master? Just what kind of an abnormal genius was she? Just that little slut. How is this possible? Seeing Huang Yueli's gaze fall onto herself, Murong Fei couldn't help but shudder. You can also listen on. For Huang Yueli to look at her, there was no need to think to know that she was definitely up to no good. Indeed, before Huang Yueli opened her mouth, Murong had already noticed her line of vision as he immediately responded, snatching the opportunity to speak. "Fei-er, today you've been too rash and offended Miss Bai. Apologize to Miss Bai." Murong Fei felt extremely humiliated when she heard this. The person she looked down on the most was Bai Ruoli, who was standing in front of her. Now she was made to apologize to this little slut who had snatched away Li Moing from her? How is this possible? Murong Fei was suppressing herself as she didn't say a word. Murong frowned as he was feeling frustrated. He felt that this daughter of his was really making one more and more irritated. She had been causing trouble day in and day out, and now that she'd done something wrong, she actually refused to apologize? This temper. She had really been pampered thoroughly. When Cui Yuan Shan saw this, he laughed out loudly. "Junior brother Murong, don't make things difficult for your daughter anymore. She's thinking of the sect too, otherwise why would she keep her eyes on Miss Bai for? After all, she's the sect master's daughter, so if you want to make her apologize to Miss Bai, is not giving her any face, right?" Cui Yuan Shan spoke a chain of biting sarcasm, making President Hu's face turn ugly once again. He angrily gave Murong Fei a stare and said, "All right, I finally understand Celestial Light Sect. So armament masters in your sect are being treated in this way. Since you despise armament masters, feeling that apologizing to armament masters is an embarrassing thing, then why do you even look for me to be a witness? I cannot take up this responsibility." Saying that, he flicked his sleeves and was about to walk off. This time round, Moronde was really anxious. He hurriedly ran down from the main seat and blocked President Hu's way as he gave an apologetic smile. President Hu, please don't. Today's matter is a huge matter, so we cannot do without you. What you said is correct. My daughter is in the wrong, and she should apologize. We cannot just forget about this. Saying that, Moronde looked at Moronge Fei once again as he opened his mouth. His tone had turned harsher than before. Fair, where are your manners? Today you've indeed gone too far. Why aren't you apologizing to Miss Bai? Moronge Fei's eyes widened as she didn't expect her father, who had pampered her so much, actually forced her to do such an embarrassing thing in front of so many people. Now in the main hall, everyone's eyes were on her and Huang Yueli. If she were to submit to Huang Yueli right now, in future, where would she have the face to snatch her man from Huang Yueli? But since things already came to this step, there was no possibility for her to not lower her head. Moronge Fei suppressed herself for a long period of time as she finally clenched her teeth tightly as she hissed the few words out forcefully. Sorry. Huang Yueli blinked. What did you say? I didn't hear it clearly. Moronge Fei had finally coerced herself to say a word of apology, but in the end Huang Yueli still said that about her, making Moronge Fei almost fainting from anger. Actually, although Huang Yueli intentionally made things difficult for her, but her voice was really soft like a mosquito buzzing, so a lot of people didn't even notice that she had said anything earlier. President Hu also frowned in dissatisfaction. That's right, your apology is so soft. I'm guessing you are not sincere at all, right? Are you just trying to hoodwink me? Under the tremendous pressure, Moronge Fei had no choice but to raise the volume of her voice. Miss Bai, I've offended you today, and I'm extremely sorry for it. You can also listen on. This time, although Moronge Fei's voice had turned louder, but her tone sounded so fierce that one couldn't tell if she was remorseful or not. President Hu frowned again and was about to spit out fire. What kind of an attitude is that? However, Huang Yueli hurriedly stopped him as she said, President Hu, don't be angry. Miss Moronge has apologized, and I'm already very satisfied with that. After all, she's Moying's junior sister, so it's understandable that she has this attitude. I must consider on the behalf of Celestial Light Sect as well. Upon hearing this, President Hu gave her a sulky stare. You're just like that. Simply too kind, which is why you're bullied by others. A genius armament master actually got chased down from the upper seat. What is this? Don't just think for young sect masterly. He's a genius, all right, but you're not far off from him, so if he really bullies you, don't you just swallow it down. Huang Yueli hurriedly said, President Hu, please don't misunderstand. Moying is very good to me. I just don't want to smear the reputation of his sect. President Hu waved his hand. All right. I know you two have a good relationship, so hurry on and go back to your fiancé. I really can't continue watching. Huang Yueli couldn't help but laughed as she felt that this old man was really meaningful. Armament masters were mostly aloof by nature, but they were generally more pure, and towards people who entered their eyes, they would treat the other party very well. Moronge Fei was just by the side, listening to them talk, as he felt extremely touched. Regarding today's matter, Huang Yueli was the one who suffered the most grievance instead of bearing a grudge. That young lass was even considering on the sect's behalf to compromise and let everyone have peace of mind. This was extremely hard to come by. In comparison, Moronge Fei had not considered his obstructions several times and had to go against Huang Yueli. Not only had she thrown their face all the way to the West Sky region, furthermore, her last apology was so insincere. Moronge stared at her as he felt resentful towards her for failing to meet his expectations. Look at yourself. Why can't you learn from others? No wonder your eldest senior brother only likes her. This kind of tolerance is just not the same. When Moronge Fei heard that, she almost fainted. What kind of virtue that wretched lass had, no one was more clear than her. She was absolutely black-bellied and sinister, filled with a stomach full of bad water. But unfortunately, her father actually cited that wretched lass and still asked her to learn from Huang Yueli? He even said she had low tolerance? Why couldn't her father tell that that wretched lass absolutely said that on purpose? It was done to disgust herself. Intentionally. Huang Yueli returned back to Li Moying's side, and before she had even sat stably, Li Moying raised his brow at her as he asked in a low voice. Huang Yueli proudly and pamperedly hemphed at him. Aren't I doing all these for you? If I really put your master on the spot, your celestial light sect will probably lose all the face to continue in this line. Li Moying leaned in close to her ear as he laughed lowly. As compared to you, nothing is more important than you. So celestial light sect is not even worth mentioning at all. Your words really sound so nice. Huang Yueli pouted. Li Moying knew that she was still feeling upset inside. Furthermore, originally, if she had openly beaten Murong Fei up, this anger might have been appeased. But after President Hu stuck his nose into it, although he had won back her face in a strong manner, but that anger was suffocated back. No wonder she wasn't feeling good at all. Li Moying naturally knew what she was thinking about and pinched her cheek laughingly. So pampered and arrogant. It's all because your fiancé didn't vent your anger for you? Just wait and see. Huang Yueli went into a blank as she didn't know what he was up to and turned back to take a look at him. You can also listen on. Li Moying pacified her by touching her shoulders and turning back his head at the same time as he said coldly, Second junior brother, where do you think you're going? Li Lingchuan realized that the situation wasn't quite right and had already been retreating backwards secretly, hoping that his movements would not be found out. Whoever knew that Li Moying suddenly called out for him. He secretly raised his head and met Li Moying's biting cold gaze sweeping by as his spine felt a chill, so he could only stop his footsteps. Li Lingchuan self-professed that he was one of the peerless talents in South Sky region, and while facing other practitioners, he never felt that he ran out of spirit. But unfortunately, the moment he met Li Moying, just one glance was enough to make him terrified, feeling that he had to bow down in front of his feet. Eldest senior brother, AH-. His stammering words had yet to finish when he felt his eyes turning blurry. A severe lightning flashed across and struck him on his chest. Li Lingchuan didn't even have the time or space to react or evade when he was struck directly. He saw a miserable shriek as he crashed heavily towards the outside. Lingchuan, Murong stood up in shock. Quickly go see what has happened to Li Lingchuan. The medical professionals present immediately rushed over. This time as the mishap happened too quickly, so quick that it made everyone surprised and everyone in the main hall were shocked. No one expected Li Moying to suddenly make a move. Just within a short span of an instant, Li Lingchuan was heavily injured. After some time, some people finally regained their senses as all of them were dumbstruck. What's the matter with young Sectmaster? Why did he directly strike out at Mr. Li? Isn't that obvious? Earlier, Mr. Li together with eldest young Miss were bullying Miss Bai, intending to ask her to sit at the last seat. Although young Sectmaster has given the sect some face to let off eldest young Miss, but Master Li doesn't have that good fortune, He really stood up for Miss Bai? Heavens! Young Sectmaster's character is so cold, but he actually got fired up for a woman. Why isn't the lucky one me? What curse did Bairuoli cast it on him? You? Haven't you even seen your own distance between yourself and Miss Bai? She is a top-rated armament refining genius. Even President Hu is full of praise for her. Are you even comparable? Not only were the ordinary disciples discussing this, even President Hu and the rest were extremely shocked and surprised. President Hu was only astonished for a moment when he laughed out. Youngsters, they're just too rash. But at least he has a bit of hot blood in him. Otherwise, I cannot rest assured that our talented, genius young lady of the Armament Guild will marry him. From the looks of this now, young Sect Master Li indeed knows how to protect our Miss Bai. Li Moying indifferent replied. Naturally. Towards outsiders, he didn't like to talk much, but merely using a few words to describe his feelings of adoration toward Huang Yueli. It was enough to make anyone understood his meaning. The words of oration were almost by Murong's mouth, but upon thinking, he decided to swallow it down. Internal strife was a major offense in these kinds of large sects, and if it were others who fought in such an occasion, Murondo would never let them off. But since it was Limoying, he couldn't even say a single word of criticism, because he himself could not afford to offend Limoying. Moreover, Li Lingchuan was at fault in the first place. Adding on to the fact that Limoying had already let Murong Fei off, his pursuit towards Li Lingchuan was considered a huge step back. You can also listen on. Murong restrained himself for some time, not saying a word. At this moment, the doctor who gave Li Lingchuan a checkup came over to report, "Sec Master, Master Li's injuries are rather grave. His internal organs were almost shattered, and if he doesn't lie down for a couple of months, he wouldn't be able to recuperate. Luckily, his meridians hadn't suffered too much damage, so in future, he will still be able to continue cultivating." Hearing that, Murong knew that Limoying really had shown leniency. So what more could he say? Murong sighed as he waved his hand. "I know already. Bring Master Li down for urgent treatment." Saying that, he returned to his own seat. From the start till the end, he didn't say a word about Limoying. Huang Yueli sat beside Limoying as her eyes were wide open, a little surprised over what had happened. She had not expected Limoying to be so merciless, suddenly injuring someone without even giving a warning at all. In this way, Murong's reputation had totally fallen onto the ground, so Huang Yueli thought that he would at least berate Limoying a little. But towards the end, Murong didn't even say a single word and directly went back to his seat. It was obvious that he was afraid of Limoying. Limoying sensed that Huang Yueli kept staring at him as he turned his head slightly. "What's the matter, Leah? Why are you looking at me and not eating anything? Are the dishes not to your liking?" Huang Yueli smiled at him. "I realize that you seem to be very overbearing in the sect. You just beat up your junior brother until he has such a serious injury. Haven't you noticed that your master is extremely angry?" Limoying gave a cold harumph. "I didn't go beat up Murong Fei is the utmost face which I'm giving him. Moreover, the guy, surnamed Li, created trouble for me in the Dark Moon Forest previously, and I haven't settled the debt with him yet. And now he still came out to create trouble. Does he think that I, Limoying, am dead?" Saying that, he looked at Huang Yueli. "Do you feel that I'm too overbearing?" Huang Yueli smiled sweetly. "Of course not, why would I? I feel that you're extremely suave until I can die." Limoying then satisfactorily smiled as the sides of his lips curled upwards. To him, there was nothing which made him happier than to hear Huang Yueli praised him. His leer's expression was just too cute, and if it wasn't for the fact that this was a public area, and he was afraid that Huang Yueli would become angry from embarrassment, he wanted to lower his head and give her a kiss. Suddenly at this moment, Cui Yuanshan suddenly opened his mouth. "Junior brother Murong, aren't the rules in Celestial Light sect very strict? How come your disciples can even beat each other up openly in public? This is a real eye-opener for me." Murong's expression stiffened. How would he not be able to tell that Cui Yuanshan didn't harbor any good intentions? Everyone present could tell that he didn't berate Limoying because he didn't want to offend this talented disciple. But Cui Yuanshan had to bring out this sentence, ridiculing and hinting that he had a double standard. If he didn't pursue the matter in which Limoying beat up his fellow junior brothers, it was obvious that Celestial Light sect didn't have the dignity of a large sect. But if he pursued him, he didn't dare to take up the risk of offending Limoying. Cui Yuanshan was obviously trying to sow a discord between them. Just as Murong was extremely interlocked, Limoying suddenly gave a chilly laugh and calmly opened his mouth. "Sect Master Cui, this seems to be our Celestial Light sect's matters. So since when had Green Cloud sect able to dabble into our sect affairs? We have yet to discuss the two sects' cooperation method, and you're already dabbling in our sect's internal affairs. If we really cooperated, then are you going to override my master?" Hearing that, Cui Yuanshan's expression changed immediately. You can also listen on. Cui Yuanshan didn't expect Limoying to rebuke him, and moreover, in such an arrogant and overbearing manner. He was a 9th-stage realm top expert who had been established for quite some time, and his potential is much higher than everyone else present. Even Morone didn't dare to speak to him in such a manner. But Limoying seemed as though he didn't feel any pressure as he immodestly taunted him. Chui Yuanshan patted the table and angrily retorted, "You! How dare you speak to me in this manner?" The minute his rage flared up, his powerful aura immediately enveloped the entire main hall, and Limoying suffered the most pressure, but he seemed as though there was nothing to it, as there weren't any changes to his expression. Sect Master Chui, putting up such a powerful might, what is your intention? Do you feel that our Celestial Light sect is good to bully? Thinking of using might to suppress our sect? This is how Green Cloud sect displays your sincerity? If this is the case, then I feel that the decision to cooperate with Green Cloud sect is really a huge mistake. Limoying's lips curled up as he gave a slight smile of ridicule. Chui Yuanshan was just about to explode when he heard these words and suddenly regained his senses. His eyes were fixed on those Celestial Light sect's 9th stage realm elders as they all started to stand up, looking at him with anger in their eyes. Evidently, they were all fired up from his earlier action. Chui Yuanshan immediately broke out in cold sweat. Yes, although Limoying himself was only in 7th stage realm, but Celestial Light sect wasn't a small sect who were vegans. As an established and accomplished sect which had been around for 1,000 years, even if Sect Master Moron's actual ability wasn't comparable to his, but there were still grand elders within the sect who had the ability and were powerful enough to defeat Chui Yuanshan. More importantly, as what Limoying said earlier, he was here to cooperate with the sect. Although he has a chance to squeeze Celestial Light sect, he would not give up on it. But if this really resulted in the failure of the cooperation, thus unable to activate the ancient mystic region, then the loss would outweigh the gains. Chui Yuanshan tried his best to suppress his own rage as he gave a cold snort. Of course I brought along my sincerity. There's nothing to doubt about this. A junior like you is so disrespectful to me, but on accord of your master, I will not haggle with you over this. He angrily returned to his own seat and lifted up the teacup as he drank loads of water to extinguish his fury. Those ordinary disciples present had never seen a 9th stage realm practitioner displaying their might, and were all breaking out in cold sweat. Especially when Chui Yuanshan released his might, many of them were so scared that they wet their pants. They all thought that Chui Yuanshan would throw a huge temper. Young Sect Master was just too condescending, so after he kicked the iron plate, something big might just explode. Everyone was all sweating on Limoying's behalf. But none of them had thought that Chui Yuanshan actually didn't get worked up. Instead, he suppressed his own anger while nursing his grievance. Limoying's simple words pushed a powerful 9th stage realm practitioner back, and even made him unable to get worked up. This was a simply unimaginable thing, so everyone's admiration towards Limoying had raised to a brand new platform. Originally, their young sect master not only had innate talent and potential, even his talent in speaking was so good. Furthermore, in front of Chui Yuanshan's powerful aura, he totally had no fear. Instead, he seemed to be watching a joke. How could he be so self-confident? The others couldn't see through this, but Huang Yueli understood it very well. She couldn't help smiling while she shook her head, thinking that this man was exactly the same as in his past life. From a very long time ago, there were numerous super strong practitioners who were angered by him till they almost threw up blood. You can also listen on. If this man's mouth started to seep with poison, even she could do nothing about it. But following his potential in his past life, as Mu Qingying, as it grew stronger and stronger, by the time he had no opponents, there were very little people who had the chance to make him display his poisonous tongue skill. A large portion of people were already scared out of their souls from just one chilly glance. So do they even need him to say anything else more? It was because Huang Yueli met him in his younger days when his potential still wasn't very high that she had the chance to witness this. Now, things were replaying again, and that made Huang Yueli reminisce about old feelings. After Chui Yuanshan was stuffed by Limoying, he felt that he had lost face and kept drinking wine and not saying a single word more, making the atmosphere turn a little embarrassing. However, Murongda was feeling glad in his heart as he intentionally persuaded him to drink less, which made Chui Yuanshan even more infuriated that his mustache was whistling and his eyes widened. Luckily, President, who was seated in the middle mediating, so the atmosphere had not turned overly anxious. Huang Yuli saw this and was feeling puzzled, so she secretly tugged Li Moying's sleeve as she asked, "Moying, why do I feel that your master and sect Master Chui don't seem quite right? Did they have any enmity before this?" Most large sects, although they do mutually compare themselves unrealistically, but the outcome was very different for Murongda and Chui Yuanshan, as though they grabbed every single chance, without a care as they insisted on comparing every single thing. Li Moying swept them a glance and lowered his volume. "I heard that Master and Sect Master Chui had a good relationship in the past, and they even roamed about South Sky region to experience training. But too bad in the end, they both fell in love with my master's wife. The result was my master's wife marry my master, so Sect Master Chui then started to hate my master." Huang Yueli was suddenly enlightened. No wonder. In this way, Sect Master Chui really seems pitiful. I feel that he's more handsome than your master, and his potential is also much stronger. Right? I haven't seemed to have met your master's wife. She should be a real beauty. Although Murongda was slightly cowardly, and to tell the truth, he wasn't considered a handsome male, but Murong Fei and Murong and I were genuine beauties, so it only meant that their mothers were extremely ravishing. Li Moying nodded and said, "My master's wife passed on very early. She was down with a disease and died. Because of that, she left behind 2 daughters who hadn't been taught properly, resulting in their unruly and headstrong behavior. In this case, they really seem very pitiful, but I'm not going to sympathize with them." Huang Yueli's lips tugged as she replied in a proud and pampered manner. After understanding the cause and effect, then on seeing the 2 sect masters arguing, she felt that it was very interesting as she propped up her chin while watching delightfully. She hadn't noticed that Li Moying's gaze had always been on her while seeming in deep thought. Murongda and Chui Yuanshan in this manner were similar to Liu Baiyan and himself, liking the same woman, and there was bound to be a loser one day. The 2 of them hadn't turned into enemies, all because Liu Baiyan voluntarily gave an alas. In this lifetime, they still turned tables with each other totally. Recalling those carefree years with Liu Baiyan, Li Moying sighed with emotions. Unfortunately, there was only one Huang Yuli, so he absolutely would not give up on the woman he liked. So perhaps he and Liu Baiyan's relationship weren't as great as these 2 sect masters, as there were some unpleasantries, so the banquet's atmosphere wasn't as good as what they planned from the start. Many of them seemed to be sitting on a carpet of thorns, wishing that the banquet would end sooner. You can also listen on. He finally lasted till 3 rounds of drinking was completed when Murong stood up. "Everyone, will you please remain silent for a while? I have some things to announce." He coughed, and everyone instantly quieted down. Those present went all direct disciples and were the core of the sect. Everyone knew that Green Cloud Sect was here today to have a discussion on cooperation with Celestial Light Sect and had more or less heard about the ancient mystic region. So Murongda's words didn't really raise an alarm. Instead, it made everyone's ears prick up as they wanted to know how the discussion on the cooperation went. Murongda continued, "Green Cloud Sect's Sect Master Chui has graced us this visit today because Green Cloud Sect have recently discovered a new ancient mystic region at the boundary of West and South Sky regions. Hence, they decided to seek Celestial Light Sect for cooperation, thinking that we can work together to activate this mystic region. Regarding the 2 sects' cooperation to activate the mystic region, we have reached a consensus. But everyone should know that every single time an ancient mystic region is activated, the number of people who can enter are limited, so after an estimated calculation, the total number of people who can enter the mystic region for the first time is only around 30. But as for the distribution of these 30 quota, we have yet to set the specific verdict." Huang Yuli was also concentrating on listening. She had entered all of the discovered ancient mystic regions in Soaring Heavens continent in her past life, so she had a huge understanding regarding this aspect. For the ancient mystic region to be activated, it was totally reliant on ninth-stage realm practitioners injecting their profound energy internally, and every single practitioner must expend a portion of their profound energy upon entering. As the Elder's profound energy total sum was fixed, so the number of practitioners who could enter were also fixed. Furthermore, the younger the practitioner, the lesser the amount of the profound energy would be expended, so normally those practitioners over 30 years old were not able to use this method to enter the mystic region. Morongda's words had just ended when Chui Yuan Shan also stood up. He added, "I and Sect Master Morong have discussed an initial proposal, which is why we have specially invited President Hu to be our witness. 3 days later, Green Cloud Sect and Celestial Light Sect will jointly hold a one-time arena tournament, which is restricted only to the younger generation disciples. The sect, which holds the victory of the arena tournament, will obtain a 70% entrance quota to the mystic region." The minute Chui Yuan Shan finished his words, the stage below was already in a riot. Green Cloud Sect's disciples were all frowning with knitted brows. 70% of quotas. Why must it be distributed like that? The winning side will obtain 70%, then won't the losing side only have 30%? That's right, I'm not even in the top 10 among the direct disciples, so if there's only 30% quota, that would be equivalent to 9 places. Then there's definitely no show for me. Me too, and my ranking is even worse off than yours. What should we do if we are not the winner? Celestial Light Sect's disciples were secretly rejoicing. Haha, this word actually came out from Green Cloud Sect's sect master's mouth. Am I hearing things? If it's this kind of distribution method, then the one who will get the 70% quota would definitely be us, Celestial Light Sect. Just think, what potential does our young sect master have? Green Cloud Sect's number 1, ranking Lung Yifeng, was defeated by young sect master in one move the last time. Isn't that so? This time we will definitely get the 70% quota. Looks like I'll have a chance to enter the mystic region. This is simply great with the young sect master around. We don't need to worry at all. Not only Celestial Light Sect disciples thought in this way. Even Morongda also felt that Celestial Light Sect's chance of winning was confirmed. He touched his beard as he said, smilingly, "Brother Chui, this afternoon you were still saying that you will not agree to this kind of arena tournament to fix the quota. Why do you change your mind so soon? You can also listen on. I didn't expect you to be so broad-minded and willing to automatically give the quota up to us Celestial Light Sect." Morongda was laughing so much that he almost couldn't take it. He originally suggested the arena tournament was because he wanted to test Chui Yuan Shan, with no expectation that he would agree to it. After all, even an idiot knew that even if all of Green Cloud Sect's direct disciples added up together, they weren't Li Moing's match at all. So if they really held an arena tournament, then wouldn't it be equivalent to giving up the quota to Celestial Light Sect for free? For someone as smart as Chui Yuan Shan, would he do such a thing? Who knew that Chui Yuan Shan actually agreed to this condition? Moreover, he had openly said this in front of President Hu and the disciples from both sects. So there was no way of going back on his words. Was there water in Chui Yuan Shan's head? Chui Yuan Shan swept the jubilant Morongda a glance as he harumphed heavily. "Junior Brother Morong, why are you in such a haste? I haven't finished talking. I have supplementary conditions." "Why? What supplementary conditions? Tell me. I'll agree to all of it." Morongda had already treated the quota to enter the ancient mystic region as his object, so he was in a good mood, and he spoke in a generous way. "You agreed to it yourself." Chui Yuan Shan's eyes shone a little. "Wait, what on earth are you?" Morongda instinctively felt something was not right, as he tried to revert what he said earlier. But Chui Yuan Shan had already declared loudly in front of everyone, "My condition is for this arena tournament, disciples under 18 years old are only allowed to take part in it. Those who exceed this age are prohibited from joining in the tournament." "What? How will this do?" Morongda's expression changed immediately. Chui Yuan Shan remained calm and composed while handling this pressing affair. Sect Master Morong, you agreed to this earlier. We all have a reputation to upkeep, so you cannot go back on your words. Morong retorted angrily. Stop using your words to run on me. You obviously schemed me in the first place. How can the arena tournament only allow under 18-year-olds to take part? Obviously, disciples under 30 years old are able to enter the ancient mystic region. Then the standard for taking part in the arena tournament should maintain the same. Those under 30 years of age are able to take part. Morongda had not expected Cui Yuanshan to have this idea. If he were to agree to this condition, then it would be disadvantageous to them, because Li Moying was already 20 years old. So he would definitely not be able to take part in the arena tournament. If they were short of Li Moying, then Celestial Light Sect's victory would possibly be lowered by half. Green Cloud Sect's combined ability was originally much higher than Celestial Light Sect by half, so it was imaginable that the younger disciple's ability most probably exceeded the latter. Morongda was insistent that he could not accept such conditions as he started arguing on this. But everyone knew how to calculate to their own favor, so Cui Yuanshan's stand was extremely firm. Junior Brother Moro, must you make things so clear? I don't want your sect's young sect Master Li to join in the arena tournament. We are upright people, so we don't talk low. Who present here doesn't know his ability? The minute he joins in, we Green Cloud Sect will definitely be at the losing end. This kind of competition is not fair at all. If you feel that you're reasonable, then let President Hu come and judge on this. President Hu was pushed out as a witness. He was very impartial as he immediately said, I feel that Sect Master Cui has a point there. The minute young Sect Master Li makes his move, it is impossible for the arena tournament to continue because there would be no more suspense. Since it's a competition, then it should be conducted fairly. Cui Yuanshan's face immediately revealed a smile. So, you have two choices. Either you restrict the disciples to under 18 to take part in the tournament, or we can split the quota into half directly. You can also listen on. The moment Moronda heard what President Hu said, he knew there was no reason for him to continue debating, and his brows immediately creased as he sunk into a difficult moment. It was totally two different kinds of concept on dividing the quota equally and obtaining 70% of it. Because once they enter the ancient mystic region, the outside world would not know the scenario within the mystic region. In order to protect the sect's benefits, there was bound to be some kind of battle between the two sects. If the quota was divided equally, the number of people who could enter were almost the same, so there was bound to be a mutual win or loss situation. But if one party only obtained 30% of the quota, then after they enter the mystic region, the disparity between the two sides' ability would increase. The side which had more people would have an overwhelming advantage. If a scuffle were to break out, there was no suspense regarding which side would win or lose. Sometimes, some sects might even use underhanded methods to encircle and annihilate the disciple from the sect, which had lesser people, in order to obtain the exclusivity of the mystic region's resources. Sect mainly allied together for the sake of benefits, but the minute they entered the mystic region, their agreement was considered completed. So many others could do any kind of things then. So the number of people who enter the mystic region was very important and not as simple as it looked on the surface. Murongda pondered for a long time, and in the end he still felt insecure, so he opened his mouth. I originally didn't agree to using the arena tournament method to decide on the quota. This will hurt the harmony between our two sects, so I feel that towards the distribution of the mystic region's quota, it's not impossible. His speech sounded elegant, but still, it was lacking in spirit. Other than Li Moying, who else can go up against Green Cloud Sect's eldest disciple Leng Yifeng? Before he finished his sentence, Cui Yuanshan suddenly butted in again, cutting off his words. Junior Brother Morong, are you sure you want to divide the quota evenly? Are you seriously afraid of us Green Cloud Sect? Without Mr. Li, Celestial Light Sect is indeed a third-rated sect. Murongda was instantly stuffed as he suppressed his anger while his entire face flushed red. Although Celestial Light sect indeed relied on Li Moying to hang on, but for someone to say it out openly made him, the sect master, lost face. Chui Yuanshan looked at him and continued, "But you don't need to be so scared. Did you think I'd take advantage of you? We, Green Cloud sect, are different from you. Every single disciple with us is abled, and it's not just the eldest disciple alone. To tell you the truth, my eldest disciple Lung Yifeng had just passed his 18th birthday last month." Murong Da was stunned. "Then, he also can't," Chui Yuanshan nodded. "So how about it? Isn't my condition very fair? Although Mr. Li cannot engage in the tournament, but Lung Yifeng also can't take part in it. So on this point, both of us are at the same starting point. When I said only those under 18 can take part in the tournament, it is absolutely not to cheat you. How about it? Are you still intending to divide the quota into half?" Chui Yuanshan's eyes were fixed intently on Murong Da as he popped the same question once again. Murong Da couldn't help but frowned as instinct told him that Chui Yuanshan was definitely up to no good. He couldn't possibly believe that a wily old fox like Chui Yuanshan would suddenly have a change of attitude, becoming so kind-hearted and actually allowed his best eldest disciple to back out from the tournament. Competing for the Mystic Region's quota was a big matter which concerned the entire sect's future. How could he treat this as child's play since he drew away his own trump card? But Chui Yuanshan had already put things to such a step, so if he still didn't agree to the tournament, then wouldn't it seem that Celestial Light sect had no power at all? He had automatically let his eldest disciple withdraw from the tournament, and they still didn't dare to take up the challenge? You can also listen on. Murong Da's brows knitted together tightly, as though he was tied up and roasted on fire in a dilemma. Just at this moment, Li Moying's voice suddenly rang. "Since Sect Master Chui has already said this, then if our sect doesn't take up the challenge, it is indeed unacceptable. This arena tournament, we naturally must fight." No one expected Li Moying to say anything at this point of time, so momentarily, everyone's gazes transferred onto him. Li Moying, who was dressed in black, entirely leaned against the spacious seat as he held up a wine cup in his hand. That slender, powerful, and fair fingers lightly clasped the glazed cup as his posture was relaxed and elegant, his disposition cold but distinguished, as though he was a natural-born lord. Whereas by his side sat a slender and petite, stunning young lady, as she watched him with a face filled with adoration. Li Moying casted a glance at the young lady beside him as he tilted his wine cup in front of her. The young lady obediently raised the wine jug and poured out wine for him personally. This scene made everyone sweat profusely when it entered their eyes. From the attitude, if they didn't know Li Moying's status and ability, they would probably thought that he was some flirtatious Casanova from the royal palace or some royalty indulged in enjoyment. Furthermore, everyone couldn't help but admire Li Moying's charm. He actually made the talented armament master act like a maid to help him pour wine. He had gained so much face. So, whoever said men cannot use their face to survive, how on earth would they know that Huang Yueli was having unspoken criticisms in her heart, scolding Li Moying at least 10 times, but now was not the best time to tear things apart with this wretched man. Even Murong Da was stunned by this. Only after Li Moying sipped his wine did he finally regain his senses. Moying, have you heard clearly? According to Sect Master Chui's request, you cannot take part in this tournament." Murong Da's first reaction was that Li Moying only cared about flirting with Huang Yueli and had not been listening to Chui Yuanshan's request. Chui Yuanshan hurriedly said, "Junior brother Murong, what do you mean by this? Doesn't Mr. Li's words represent your sect? Since that's the case, then no matter if he heard clearly or not, a real man never goes back on his words, so it's too late for regrets." "What do you mean? Stop resorting to such trickery." Murong started to get infuriated. However, Li Moying simply gave a slight smile. "Master, don't be overly anxious. I heard what Sect Master Chui said. Although I cannot take part in the tournament, but Master Lung as well. Right? Since he doesn't take part, surely our Celestial Light sect would be able to win, no? Master really looks down on our celestial light sect disciples. Actually, celestial light sect's younger generation disciples are full of outstanding disciples, so we may not be any worse off than Green Cloud sect. There is definitely someone who can cause raging waves. If Sect Master Chui thinks that he is assured of a win, then it may be too early to be happy. Murong does brows knitted tightly. Moing, are you talking about your fifth junior brother? No, he's still lacking a little. Then it should be your second junior brother? Not right, too. Then it can only be, he muttered to himself as he couldn't stop calculating. Li Moing didn't continue from his words as he allowed him to continue doing his calculations and at the same time downing the entire wine in his cup as he pushed the cup in front of Huang Yueli once again, with the meaning for her to fill up the wine. Huang Yueli pouted as she gave him a stare secretly, but still lifted up the wine jug. Only while she was pouring wine, she gave a humph. What's wrong with you? You're really good at pretending as though this is, as usual, intentionally bullying me. You can also listen on. Li Moing heard her soft grumbling as the smile on his lips deepened. He turned his head around and directly leaned nearer to Huang Yueli as his breath sprayed near her ear. Huang Yueli's ear immediately turned red as a shade of pink appeared on her face, and she shot him an angry gaze. "W, what are you doing?" Li Moing suppressed his voice as he softly said, "I just like to bully you. Did you only realize it today?" You. Huang Yueli turned melancholic as she almost threw the entire jug onto him. Li Moing laughed softly as he stretched out his hand and caught the lethal weapon, which was flying towards him. At the same time, he secretly gave her a peck on the face. "All right, be more obedient. I'm helping you fight for a quota to enter the Mystic region to play. Can't you be more obedient for a little while?" Huang Yueli then gave a humph before returning back to her seat as she placed the wine jug in order. The intimate actions between the both of them would normally have caused bursts of shrieks and discussions by those who had their eyes on them. But this time round, not many people put their attention on them. Everyone was like Murongda, as they were guessing the probability of Celestial Light's sect's chance of winning. Young Sect Master actually is so confident that without him, we Celestial Light Sect can still obtain victory during the arena tournament. Could it be that we indeed have outstanding, young, talented disciples in the sect, only that they had been outshone by eldest senior brother's glow, so usually they're not remarkable? It must be so. I'm guessing young Sect Master's choice for the arena tournament should be Sect Master's fifth disciple Luo Jian. Mr. Luo is an 8th grade talent super genius, and there's still 1 month before he turns 18, so he's allowed to take part in this arena tournament. I heard that the last time he returned from Dark Moon Forest, his ability had improved swiftly, and his cultivation is already at 5th stage realm peak. Why can't the person be Mr. Li? Mr. Li's ability has obviously gotten stronger. He's already reached 6th stage realm 3rd level. But hasn't Master Li been injured by the young Sect Master? Didn't the doctor say that he cannot fight with anyone within 1 month? More importantly, he's already 19 this year, right? Then he definitely cannot take part in the tournament. No, wrong, you're all wrong. I think the candidate whom young Sect Master is talking about is Sect Master's eldest young Miss Murong. Have you all forgotten about eldest young Miss Murong's innate talent and ability? Furthermore, her age is just nice. Right, you're absolutely right. How come I didn't think of that? Eldest young Miss Murong is Sect Master's daughter, so she definitely must have learned some special inherited profound skills which ordinary people cannot match up. This means we seldom see eldest young Miss go up against others, but young Sect Master must have seen it before, which is why he said this. Everyone started to follow what the person who started this saying, as they felt that they must have guessed it correctly. Although Murong Fei was usually arrogant and loved to tangle around Li Moing, but that 8th grade talent was genuine, and her cultivation had even surpassed Luo Jian by a huge distance. Among the younger generation of disciples, she was considered as one of the excelled ones. Only when she was being compared to Li Moing, her brilliance was outshone by his. Now that they were short of Li Moing and Li Lingchuan, Who else was there in Celestial Light Sect? Was it the important task of reviving the sect going to be entrusted to Murong Fei? Murong paused for a while. Apparently his thoughts had followed along with the crowd. He turned his vision towards Murong Fei. Fei-er, I never thought that even your eldest senior brother thinks so highly of you. He believes that you can represent the sect to stand out in this battle, making every effort to save the desperate situation. You can also listen on. Since that's the case, then this arena tournament will all depend on you. Murong smiled as he looked at his daughter, feeling delighted somehow. He had swept past all the outstanding young disciples in the sect, and his conclusion was, other than Li Moying and Li Lingchuan, Murong Fei was absolutely the most outstanding among all the younger disciples. So the person who Li Moying mentioned could revive the sect. Other than her, who else could it be? Even though Murong Fei's performance today had been obstinate and unruly, which made Celestial Light Sect embarrassed, but her potential had actually obtained Li Moying's recognition. This wasn't something which was easily done. Li Moying's standard was so high, it seemed as though this was his first time praising other people's ability. Thinking of this, Murong felt that Murong Fei seemed more pleasing to the eye right now. Murong Fei herself was feeling extremely proud. She was just thinking that she had spent all her time on cultivation recently, and had advanced to the 6th stage realm just so that she could perform in front of Li Moying to show that she was worthy of him, unlike that little slut who had neither potential nor status. She thought Li Moying didn't notice her. So, eldest senior brother had it all in his mind. The only thing was he didn't talk about it. Murong Fei couldn't help but took a glance at Li Moying with an expression filled with tender affection as unlimited hope suddenly started to rise towards him once again. Huang Yueli was eating something with her lips pouted when she noticed Murong Fei's sight, and suddenly feeling stuffed, she almost threw up the things in her mouth. She kicked Li Moying hard in his foot to vent her anger. Li Moying turned to look at her in puzzlement. "Li-er, why are you unhappy now?" Huang Yueli raised her chin as she indicated to him to look at Murong Fei. "There, your legendary fiancé is staring at you right now." Li Moying took a glance at Murong Fei and instantly understood what happened as he laughed out and touched Huang Yueli's soft hair, laughing lightly. "Why are you jealous of that, Dumbo? There's only one person who is my fiancé." Murong Fei was hoping that Li Moying would give her some encouragement, but she didn't expect that Li Moying would just throw her an indifferent glance and start to flirt with Huang Yueli again. These two people just showed the world their love, making everyone envious of their relationship. But in Murong Fei's eyes, it was an extreme hindrance. She couldn't take it anymore as she hurriedly puffed up her chest and said loudly, "Father, eldest senior brother, rest assured, I will try my best to secure the 70% quota for our sect." She thought that by doing so, Li Moying would definitely take a look at her. However, Li Moying still didn't raise his head, as all he could be bothered to do was to scoop soup for Huang Yueli. Cui Yuanshan clapped his hands as he spoke in a deep voice. "Great. It's good that eldest young miss is so confident. She's really a moldable talent among the younger generation. Congratulations, junior brother Murong, for having such a good daughter. Since this is so, then we shall firm up the arena tournament like this. We shouldn't drag this on for too long, so after 7 days, our two sects shall jointly hold the arena tournament publicly. We'd like to invite President Hu to be our witness, and also let's invite a few South and West Sky regions' reputable practitioners to be the judge. What do you say?" Actually, Cui Yuanshan was feeling puzzled. He had seen Murong Fei's ability previously. Not only was it not comparable to Li Moying's, as compared to Li Lingchuan, she was also miles apart. Li Moying actually saw her as Celestial Light Sect's hope. Was he really that blind? Or could it be that there was some inside news which he didn't know about? But Cui Yuanshan himself had a trump card in his hands, so he wasn't too worried that the Green Cloud sect would lose. You can also listen on that you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.